why would you stick a person in that suit of armor when you can have an AI do it, right? Which is like the plot of like Avengers 2 or whatever.
Yeah. And Terminator 2.
Yeah, and Terminator. We had picked the hardest autonomy problem on the planet. Size, weight, and power constraint, right? This has to be a quadcopter that a team guy can bring around. At the end of the day, pulling a trigger is really easy. It takes like, 5 muscles, like an ounce of pressure, who knows? The hard part is the planning, it's the infill, it's the actions at the objective. To even be in a spot where you can make that moral decision, that was my aha moment. It was like, holy smokes, the time is now where the intersection of AI and robotics is going to have profound impacts on the military.
I still worry about it. I think it's the fear of the unknown. It's like not understanding.
I got you.
But,
don't worry. In the worst case, I promise you're better trained than anybody else, and
I'll take it.
We'll fight the robots together.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both an honor and a pleasure to welcome my next guest to the podcast. He spent 7 years in the SEAL teams. He was also a surface warfare officer on the USS Pearl Harbor. He did a couple deployments to Afghanistan as well as the Pacific Theater and the Arabian Gulf. He's got a BS in mechanical engineering from the U.S. Naval Academy, which we're not going to bust his balls about that. And he's also got an MBA from Harvard, which we're for sure not going to bust his balls about that. He is the founder of Shield AI, which is a company that protects service members and civilians with intelligent systems, which we're going to dive way into with as big of a thing as AI has become. And I want to get your take on a lot of things, as well as talk about your company and how you've woven it into the U.S. military and civilian life. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Brandon Tseng.
Thanks, Mike. Excited to be here.
Thanks for coming. I know you're a busy guy. You flew in from D.C. It's a quick in and out. I am going to ask, why do you live in D.C. First and foremost?
In 2021, moved there from San Diego. Actually, the reason I was there, I was decided to move. I was at a club that our lobbyists had taken us to on Capitol Hill. It's called the Capitol Hill Club. It's where the Republicans, the Congress people go. And it's probably everything that you like think and don't like about DC and why it's got the the verbiage or the name the swamp. And I was like, you know what? If this is the epicenter of the defense market, this is the epicenter of power and decision making in the world. A lot of international customers coming to DC, and I was like, I have to be here for Shield AI to make things happen, right? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it matters to be present in people's minds, present in, having conversations with them, not just over the phone, not just sending some stranger in, but actually, building the relationships with those people.
Yeah. Do you enjoy living there?
I do. My wife's family is about an hour away, and so I travel a ton, and I have 2 small kids, a 3.5-year-old, a 1.5-year-old. And it's nice because my mother-in-law can quickly pop down and hang out with my kids.
Yeah, big
and
time.
My wife, yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's good. What's the last full book that you've read?
The last full book I read was Ordinary Men. I don't know if you've heard about this. It's this guy, Jordan.
Oh, but I feel like one.
Jordan Peterson. I think it was the one where I gave this recommendation. It's kind of it's a very depressing book. It's about how the SS and the Nazis brainwashed ordinary men to commit really atrocious things during World War II, which is like used a lot of alcohol, tried to whenever they would send them to kill Jews. So
was there
just interested in the topic? For it, yeah.
Was there a specific takeaway from it for you?
I'm interested in the human psychology of people, and you see it today, like how people can really, their minds can change, or they can be shifted in one direction or polarized so rapidly. And that was what was interesting to me. It was like, how they did this it was a systematic level, right? Where it was actually a process in terms of taking ordinary people and having them do really atrocious things. And I thought that was an interesting aspect of human psychology. I think you can draw parallels to things that you see today and how people act, and just like people's response and their behaviors to these different stimuli.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty pretty frightening to me, honestly. I mean, seeing those parallels between the beginnings of the Nazi Party and kind of what led to it, and seeing a lot of similarities that you witness taking place now.
Yeah.
What's something that you wish you were better at?
I think I wish I was. I wish I was better at really just like enjoying the journey and celebrating small wins here and there. Primarily at Shield AI, or just in life in general, right? I think there's a lot to celebrate and be happy about, and my mindset is always like, okay, what's next? Keep moving forward. What's next? Do the next thing. I'm a big Kobe Bryant fan, right? There's this famous interview where they had just won like Game 3 of the finals, and like Kobe, no smile. He's like, what's there to be happy about? The job's not finished. And so that's kind of like my mindset. Like, I don't think that's the right mindset to have in life. I think it's important to, celebrate the professional wins and a lot of the things that you accomplish along the way. But it's always, to me, it's like, all right, mission's not finished. Keep moving forward, right? We got a job to do type thing.
Yeah. What's the last thing that you rewarded yourself with that you actually did take the time to celebrate a win and do something about it?
I'll celebrate with just like my family and hang out with my kids, and so I celebrate the personal wins. I don't celebrate call it the professional wins in any way. And so I think it's important. And my wife does a good job. She's a big celebration person, and so she makes sure it's like her birthday is a week long, and so and I'm like, well, that's one direction that we can go, but that's fine. So that's
I'm tracking. If time travel were possible, where and when would you go and why?
Oh man, great question. So am I allowed to go to the future?
You can go wherever the fuck you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to the future.
Yeah.
I'm probably going 200 years in the future. I think that'd be interesting to check out. Right?
Yeah.
And the reason I'm an engineer. I love technology. I'm trying to build the future. I'd like to see what that looks like.
See if we knocked it out of the park. Yeah, totally fucked it up.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I dig it. Would you get any winning lottery numbers or anything like that?
I'd look at you'd look at I don't think that 200 years doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I definitely see what technologies are there, and I think that's cool. But I don't think
Well, I guess if you went 200 years in the future, when you're there, you could see what the winning lottery numbers are for next week.
Yeah, I'd write a letter to my grandkids.
Yeah. That's
and their great grandkids. Open this in 100 years. Doc Brown style from Back to the Future.
That's a much more noble act than what I would think of. Do you have a favorite quote?
I've been on one lately, and this is, I think it's Vince Lombardi, but it's a play on this. It's we chase perfection to capture excellence, and so that's something that I recently put up in my office. It resonates with me. So.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Do you have an EDC? Do you carry in DC? I know it's pretty difficult.
No, I don't. It's on my to-do list, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, do you think it's realistic to get a concealed permit for you where you're at?
I think so. I don't know. I'm in Northern Virginia, and so Virginia gun laws I think are pretty good. But
do you have a carry gun that if you could carry, you would carry?
Yeah, I have a 226, right? And so
old school.
Yeah.
Didn't switch over to the Glock like most.
No. It's the gun I was trained on. I know how to use it. A lot of fond memories with that thing.
Yeah.
So
I dig it. Guys, real quick, I've recently launched Patreon for the all-inclusive mic drop experience. This goes above and beyond just ad-free. Yes, you are getting ad-free episodes, but you're getting before and after bonus footage of myself and the guest in studio, in many instances outside of the studio, doing jiu-jitsu, dog stuff, car, motorcycle, recovery, fitness, lifestyle, all kinds of different things. All the different things that I have going on are included in that Patreon page. We're releasing content multiple times a day, every single day. And I want to offer that to you guys. Just go to my Patreon page. The link is in every description or any platform that I'm on, and come enjoy that experience with me. That content is for you guys. It's what you want to see. It's about you. It's about what world you want to peek into in terms of all the different things that I have my hands in, and we're bringing that to you guys just for you. And I want to take one quick second to just say thank you to everybody who already has signed up. Without your support, we couldn't do what we do for you. So thank you to you guys, and I look forward to seeing you in there. What are the two key components for canine success? That's effective training and proper nutrition. Fueled by Team Dog brings those two components to your family and best friend. The perfect nutritional balance that results in a higher mental acuity, energy, overall vitality, and even an improved appearance. Every product you will find in my company's store was born from the battlefield and not from the boardroom. Let my life's work help you become your dog's hero. Do you have a morning routine for a normal day that you're in town and it's kind of a run-of-the-mill thing? Like what time do you get up and what do the first couple hours look like?
I wake up at 4:20 in the morning.
Jesus.
Every day. Saturdays and Sundays I'll wake up at like 5:30. But
why 4:20?
Just to be 10 minutes ahead of Jocko, you know? No, I don't know. I just got into this routine of like, all right, now it's 4:20 in the morning. I feel like if it's, anyways. So
it's not a weed thing.
No.
You're not waking and baking?
No. And then, whatever, morning routine, 30 minutes, brush my teeth, get ready. I leave for the office at 4:50. I'm probably in there 5:05 a.m.
Wow.
We got international teams. So I'm checking emails, talking to my teams internationally, whether, we'll have folks in Australia and Japan and India and in the Middle East and Europe. And so they're already halfway through their day. And so I'll touch up with them. Then I'll, 6 to 8 is that's like my Zen time to actually work on things that I need to focus on. Then you get into a lot of the morning meetings as the West Coast team, this Central Time team, the Dallas team wakes up and, a full work day. I've got a pull-up bar in my office, so that's good. Try to get in. I'm really sloppy right now if you look at me, but I liked I go on these spurts where I try to get an hour workout in. Sometimes it's like I'll be on it for 2 months and then I'm off for a month for whatever undisciplined reasons. And then normally head home at 5:30 or 6. Hang out with the kids, do bath time with them, tuck them in, and then I go to sleep at I'm in bed 8:30. I'm probably asleep by 9.
Wow.
So,
It's busy days, huh?
Yeah, super busy.
For that 6 to 8 a.m. kind of your time thing, like, do you do anything in your office, like meditation-wise, or you just kind of chill out because you have a window?
No, no meditation. I do try to, I find those times. Sometimes I'll catch myself, I'll try to reflect and think strategically about things. That was a piece of advice some business leader once gave me. It's just like, look, make sure you actually, pick your head up, look around, and really think about what's going on, which is not so different than what our role was like as an officer in the SEAL teams. I remember just like, all right, make sure you're looking around and thinking about, 10 steps ahead. So
big picture.
Yeah.
Where are you originally from?
So I was born in Houston, raised in Seattle, and then finished high school in Florida. Dad's not military; it was just corporate America. He had, those 1, 2, 3 different jobs during that time. So
what did he do?
So his background was in electrical engineering, but he started his career in Bechtel, which is engineering construction, one of the largest construction companies in the world, and then worked in corporate America primarily. He was CEO of a very, very, very small company in Seattle. And then at the age of 50, he decided to buy his own small engineering and construction company in Florida.
Oh, okay.
And he's been doing that now. He still does it. He's 73, works 6 days a week doing it. So
yeah. Do you have siblings?
I have 3 other siblings. So I have my sister's the oldest. Then I have an older brother who's my business partner, CEO of Shield AI. His name is Ryan. And then my younger brother, Nick. He's actually also at Shield AI as a product manager.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You left the sister out, though, huh?
Not she's doing her own path, her own journey.
Yeah,
so I did get her to come to Dallas. So she recently moved to Dallas.
Oh, that's good.
Be closer to family, which is nice.
In terms of bouncing around growing up, obviously you don't have anything to compare it to as a child, if that's all you know, but did that impact you at all? Or did you enjoy moving around, or like how did that shake out?
To your point, like I don't think you recognize it as a kid. Like you don't really have a choice. I remember my dad would always say, he's like, look, no matter what in life, go where the opportunity is. Right. And someone recently told me, he's like, he was just telling you that because he had to move you. I was like, oh, yeah, that's actually a good point. But I actually do believe it. Right. And that's what, and so, and then, right, in the military and even at the Naval Academy, you'd see these kids who had to move a lot of times, like every 2 years, right? Yeah. They had like, 8 different moves under their belt. I think that's really tough. Right. I like the idea of, I appreciate the 2 moves that I did in my lifetime, right? It does present some adversity. I think adversity is important for kids to face that, right? Okay, you got to make new friends. You have a new school, right? There's, a new sports team, right? All this different stuff. And so I'm thankful that we did make those moves, and I did get to experience that growing up.
Yeah. Did you play any sports?
I was a swimmer and a water polo player.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
What was your event in swimming?
I was a sprinter, so 50 free, 100 free, 200 free relay, 400 free relay. Yeah. I told people, I guess, what is that? That's like I wouldn't swim more than 300 yards at a meet.
Did you ever go sub 50 in the 100 free?
Nope, never went sub 50 in the 100 free. That
Low
is
50s.
Fast. In high school, I think my fastest time, and this is yards, was like a 56.7. Yeah.
That's still quick. I mean, I swam too. And
I was top 10 in Florida for the 50 free. I was proud of that.
Yeah, like low 20s or 20 point.
It was like a 21 point something.
Yeah, that's fucking quick.
Yeah. Super slow now.
Yeah.
Can't swim 200 yards without getting tired.
You and me both.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that and water polo are good buds prep sports for sure.
They are. They are.
Were there any significant events that happened in your childhood that were super impactful, good or bad, like that are kind of at the forefront of your memory for impact?
I don't think there's any particular event, right, that was super impactful. Right? I tell people I'm a sucker for inspiration. I watched a lot of movies growing up, and a lot of good '90s action movies are what inspired me to join the Navy and try and join the SEAL teams later. So,
is there one movie that stood out?
Oh yeah, the 2 movies, classics, best SEAL movies of all time. I stand by this. Under Siege, Steven Seagal and The Rock,
Casey fucking Ryback.
Yeah. I think that one, maybe this line, what was it? Gary Busey is like the cook is a goddamn SEAL or something like that. That's that's stuck.
No, same here. I watched all that shit. Yeah. And one thing that's interesting, The Rock, that came out right before I went to boot camp, and so I saw it in the theater. And what's interesting is that's a pretty standard inspirational movie for a lot of team guys. But if you think about it, like the team guys get smoked in the movie.
Don't do well.
So it's kind of an ironic.
Good speech though, right before.
For sure. Yeah. That's good stuff. So what was the light switch or catalyst that made you say, I want to join the Navy, go to the academy and be a SEAL? Like, was it just the movies, or was there something?
So I remember, so I watched these movies. I was like, Mom, Dad, right? I was a 10-year-old when The Rock came out. I watched Under Siege when I was in 1994 or 5, whenever, like somehow I had tricked my parents, like they were half asleep. I was like, can I watch this movie?
Yeah.
And they
said, whatever.
So after watching it, it was like, Mom, Dad, this is so cool. I want to be a Navy SEAL. And they're like, okay, phase, like, yeah, we support you. That'll go away. Didn't really go away. And so as we, as I got older, we had a family friend in Seattle who's, it was my little brother's friend's dad, was a Navy SEAL. They're like, oh, you should talk to him and, ask him about it. I talked to him. He's like, oh, if you're a SEAL, you should be an officer. And I was like, oh, why? And these are like the small conversations you remember. He's like, oh, because they get paid more money. I was like that checks out as logical for like a 13-year-old, right? You're like, okay, which is a horrible reason, just to be clear. And I actually don't think we made more money during like my time in. You guys are, raking it in with the bonuses. No, so then I was like, okay, Mom, Dad, I want to be a SEAL. I want to be an officer. You know, how do you do that? And they're like, oh, well, you need to go to college. And I was like, okay, but can I do that and still, be a SEAL? Like, oh, you go to the Naval Academy, you be a SEAL, you be an officer. It's this prestigious institution. And I said, okay, that all checks out. That makes sense. Went up to visit the Naval Academy, and I think that was my junior year. They do this summer thing for students who are interested in it, and it's an impressive place on the outside, right? It's a very beautiful, on the outside. It's a beautiful campus, right? Everybody's sharp, wearing their uniforms. You're like, that's something really cool, especially for a young teenager that's like looking, to do something, cool.
For you at that time, I guess was the academy and that whole path, was that pretty much non-negotiable? Like you were hell bent on saying, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, I'll tell you, like, I remember, and I had this conversation with myself in my mind as probably a junior or senior. It's like, if I don't get into the Naval Academy, would I do ROTC? And I don't think I was like, no, I'm just going to go to the University of Florida, which is where my older brother was. And I was like, we'll figure that out afterwards. Yeah. Maybe I would have done something down the road. I have no idea. Right? Yeah.
Was it the kind of the sexiness of the job that attracted you, or was it the service to your country? Was it a combo?
Yeah, it's a combo, right? Those movies are so sexy, and that's like the initial catch, right? Yeah. We're like, oh my God. And then you read more about it, and it's like, oh, right. The draw to an elite team was something that really struck out to me. The challenge, right? Yeah. Of doing something. And then, right, as you actually probably at the Naval Academy, I'll give due credit here. It's like that's when you realize it's about service, and that's like truly what matters. I think what matters most at the end of the day. But it's a combination of all those things.
Yeah. Did you swim at the academy?
No, I played water polo.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when you actually got there, expectation versus reality, was it kind of what you thought it would be? Were there any things that shocked you?
Gosh, I don't know if anything shocked me or if I had expectations about it. It was, one, I was awful at it.
Really?
I was awful. I was awful at the whole military thing. I was ranked 39th out of 40, military order of merit, right? You get put into these cohorts of 40, they're called companies of 40, midshipmen. So there's 40 freshmen, and you spend 4 years with those people. And I was 39th out of 40. My first semester, my upperclassmen hated me. I got, hazed and destroyed. And
at least one person was worse than you.
Yeah. I think I was probably arrogant. I wasn't probably. I was, I just didn't. I remember telling someone, I was like, you get 5 basic responses at the Naval Academy as a freshman. It's like, yes, sir, no, sir, no excuse, sir, I'll find out, sir. And I don't even remember the 5th one. But anyways, he's like, why didn't you get a haircut? I told you to get a haircut. And I was just like, I don't think what you said was very important. He's just like, but no, so I was bad at the military thing. I got better at it. I finished my senior year like 12th out of 40 or something like it. Yeah. And then the academy is it's a very interesting place, and it's an interesting culture. And I tell people it's actually way more military, way worse than the actual military period. It's the military on steroids. So, hey, I did 7 years after the Naval Academy, whatever. I was active duty at the Naval Academy. Doesn't count towards anything. But that was 10x what the real military is like. Yeah. And I still hold a little resentment. I'm trying to find a place in my heart to forgive the institution. It's just taking me a little bit longer. Yeah. Because I always felt like I was going to get kicked out for something, even though it's like, you just feel like a prisoner, right? Is how like people would describe it there. Yeah. And that's the nuance about it. Great friends, great education, right? Very thankful for it, but that's the interesting part about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare it to, say, going the ROTC route, it's about as polar opposite of an environment as exists, comparatively. Which there's something to be said for that. I think, going through that, especially at that age, is very respectful, and I think it's, from a character building standpoint, extremely valuable. I don't know that I would want to do it, but I can certainly respect everybody that does. Comparing it to Harvard, Harvard being, easily one of the greatest college institutions from an education standpoint, at least that's what you think. I don't know. The last 6 months to a year has made me question that a little bit. But
I went to the business school.
Yeah, which we'll get into. But warning: this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Black Buffalo products are intended for adults aged 21 and older who are consumers of nicotine or tobacco. It's your good buddy Mike Ritland here with the Mic Drop Podcast. If you are an adult age 21 and older and use nicotine or tobacco, I want to tell you about an American-made success story and Black Buffalo's award-winning nicotine pouches. Black Buffalo's nicotine pouches are not owned by Big Tobacco. They're an independent company proudly built right here in the USA for 21 and over adult consumers. Black Buffalo was built by dippers with decades of smokeless tobacco use. They believed the market wanted a tobacco alternative nicotine product that offered the best of both worlds: bold flavor, full pouches. What are they made of? It's pretty simple: cured edible green leaves, food-grade ingredients, and pharmaceutical-grade nicotine. Most importantly, there's no tobacco leaf or stem. Black Buffalo is all about the history and tradition of dip, but they understand the convenience and discretion modern-day consumers are looking for. Black Buffalo's nicotine pouches give you the versatility to consume discreetly, but still keep the ritual with flavors dippers love. Mint, straight, and wintergreen, all proudly made right here in the USA. So, if you're 21 and older, consume nicotine or tobacco, and want to join the Black Buffalo herd, head over to blackbuffalo.com to learn more. You can order nicotine pouches online, and they ship directly to most states. Or check out their store locator to purchase pouches at thousands of retail locations around the country. Black Buffalo Tobacco Alternative, bold flavor, full pouches. As you guys know, sleep is a huge component to recovery and really all aspects in life, and it's something that a lot of us have struggled with, for a lot of our lives, frankly. As you know, I've been a big proponent of Beam, which is a hot cocoa that you drink before you go to sleep, and it's helped tremendously in terms of hours of sleep maintained as well as the quality of sleep. Today, my listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, which is their science-backed hot cocoa for sleep, and it's got no added sugar. Better sleep has never tasted better. As you know, other sleep aids can cause next-day grogginess and just make you feel crappy, but Dream contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, and apigenin, also melatonin, to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling refreshed. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/micdrop, all caps, all one word, and use code MicDrop, all one word, all caps, at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/micdrop and use code MicDrop for up to 40% off. But I guess, you didn't go to other colleges, but I mean, from a caliber of education standpoint, to the best of your ability, how would you compare the Naval Academy to any top shelf school in the country?
Yeah, and so one, right. So Naval Academy is an engineering-first institution, world-class engineering school. I want to say it was top 5 engineering school in the country when I went there. And that's right. The Navy wants to produce engineers to run their submarines, to run their aircraft carriers, to run their ships. And so there's a big engineering culture in the big Navy. And so a phenomenal engineering institution that I think plays, right up there with, the MITs of the world, the Stanfords of the world, in terms of it's different types of engineering. It's a lot of it's focused on nuclear power. Nuclear propulsion is a big component of it. and again, this is at Harvard. It was for my MBA. It was a master's program. What was incredible about that institution, like great education in a very, very different way, right? It wasn't an engineering education. It was a business education. Was just the quality of people, and the quality of people at the business school is top notch. Just like incredible people, incredible backgrounds, stories, etc.
I'm assuming you went after you got out of the Navy, right?
Yeah, that was right after I got out of the Navy.
So being somebody who, there's a lot of people, not a lot, but there are a number of people that have MBAs from prestigious Ivy League schools but never own businesses. Mm-hmm. Maybe they work, as a fucking CFO somewhere, whatever. But being a high-level business owner for a number of years now after that, do you think that an MBA, especially from Harvard, is worth what it's considered to be worth in that regard? I
think it is, right? Yeah. And look, you have to be the right person and the right mindset to understand, right? It's not just that institution giving to you, right? You have to give back to it and actually have to buy into that aspect of it. But I thought it was fantastic for me. I have lifelong friends there. I learned a ton. I learned a different language of business. I think it's like you can do a lot of different things, whether it's be a business owner, whether it's be a consultant, be an investor, you name it. But I think it does a really good job producing great business leaders.
Do you think that obviously you wouldn't be exactly where you're at had you not done it. Do you think you could have succeeded as the founder of Shield AI having not gotten an MBA from Harvard?
Right, I would have found a way. It's kind of like the mindset, but holy smokes, it would be like what I'm doing right now is super difficult. That could have been 10x, 100x more difficult. And it's just because there's what we are doing requires a lot of capital, requires a lot of money, and what those institutions have are a network of people with capital. And that's, in terms of like one of the great things that I appreciate going to that school and learning what I did is just like you learn how the world works, how money works within the world. And that is,
that's as important as anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm certainly not naive to that. I mean, having been in the entrepreneur world for 15 years now, I mean, like, doesn't matter how good you are at whatever you're doing, if you don't know the right people and know how to connect certain dots, like, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's almost impossible to make it work, without that. Is it a fair assumption to say that the networking and connections that you gain from a Harvard, a Dartmouth, what have you, that those are as influential and important as the actual knowledge that you gain there?
Yeah, I think that's true. One of my good friends from school, whose dad incredibly successful, and it's just like he's like, I don't think of it as networking out, and I actually don't either. It's like I'm building friendships with a lot of different people, and that is how I look at it, and like I get to learn about these people. At the end of the day, you want to help your friends want to help you, and so that is probably more valuable. And that's what could write down like a list of things that I wanted to get out of my time going to business school there, and like on top of that list was like, great friends, lifelong friends. Yeah. So.
Is the kind of singular takeaway that you got from a Harvard MBA program is how the world works, how money works, or is there?
I think so. That would be on my top takeaways in terms of like, I learned a lot of different things there. Yeah. One of the cool things was about Harvard is like I tell a lot of veterans reach out to me, right? A lot of team guys who are applying to business school, like, should I do this? What should I do? It's like one of the more interesting aspects, this is on the academic curiosity side. It's just like, look, in the SEAL teams, in the Navy, I got to deal with the bottom 5% of countries in the world. And then I was very cognizant of the top 5% of countries in the world, right? US, UK, Australia, et cetera. Turns out like 90% of the world is doing something really, really interesting also. And the opportunity to meet with a lot of the international community, and whether they're friends from India, South America, Europe, Africa, like you're like, holy smokes, there's a lot happening in the world that that I didn't have purview to, or didn't appreciate, and that I learned to appreciate while I was there.
Yeah, that makes good sense. Do you think that at the level of let's say, Harvard, Wharton, I mean, Columbia, any of the other schools that are kind of considered in that top tier, do you think that one is better than the other? Are they all kind of pretty good?
Yeah, I'm going to be biased towards
my
alma mater. But no, I think you're going to get the same education out of everyone. You're going to get an incredible network out of everyone. And look, I don't think you can go wrong.
It's like comparing us to British SAS and Australian.
Exactly. Yeah.
Of course we're better.
Yeah, of course we're better, yes.
Yeah. All right, so you make it through the academy. Were there any like huge hurdles there, or any I almost got kicked out because, like, any cool stories from that time? Or did you just kind of get through it?
No, so like I didn't almost ever get kicked out. I had fun. I broke rules and like I got away with it, which is like, and they're not like egregious rules. Drinking underage, right? That's one. But that's like something that you'd be terrified about getting caught for there. Nowhere at any other school, right? Look, I will say one of my, I put it up there, like top 5 worst days of my life was I found out I didn't get picked up for Naval Special Warfare right out of the academy, it was worst day of my life. Also, best thing that ever happened to me in hindsight, right? Hindsight being 2020. It was just that was a tough pill to swallow. They bring you into this room with all your other classmates. You open an envelope and you find out what you're going to do. And it's like, oh, you're going to be a surface warfare officer in the Navy. And I fucking went back to my shower, cried, and like was like, because it was tough for 21-year-old me to hear that, like, oh, you're not going to live your 10-year-old dream of becoming a Navy SEAL. You're like, okay, but that was perhaps like the hardest thing that I experienced at the Naval Academy, and I'm very thankful to get to experience that.
Yeah. So you ended up going to the Pearl Harbor, right?
The USS Pearl Harbor. Yeah.
Where is
LSD 52?
Where's that out of?
It's out of San Diego. Yeah.
So you end up in San Diego anyway. How long were you there?
I was only on that ship. I checked in. So, okay, fun fact about me. I was the first person in the class of 2008 to deploy. I gave up when you graduate from the Naval Academy, they give you 30 days. Gave up give you 30 days of leave. I said, nope, I want to get right to my ship. It's on deployment. I graduated May 23rd. May 25th, I was on a flight to Phuket, Thailand.
Yeah.
And
it's a terrible place to go.
Yeah. And met my ship there. And spent, so from May, I was off that ship November 2009, which was also fast.
Yeah.
So it was good. Had to get out there.
Yeah.
So.
How did you manage to swing that so fast? And did you go from there to Buds?
I did. Yeah. And so a couple things. One of it, like I worked my ass off on that ship, and my mentality was, so when I say like getting denied the SEAL teams was the best thing that ever happened to me, it's because after a lot of reflecting on like why that was the case, it just came down to, I was like, no excuses. I was not the number one candidate, right? I was like, I remember doing the math. I was like, ooh, maybe if I'm like the 20th best, or like there's 26 spots, I'll get to be a SEAL. I was like, no, you know what? That's the wrong mindset. You need to be number one at every single thing you do in life. Otherwise, you're going to experience this stuff over and over and over again, right? And there's really no excuse. Like that's what I was telling myself. And so worked incredibly hard on the Pearl Harbor. You have to earn your surface warfare officer pin before you can laterally transfer. And also got like fortunate and lucky, right? Timing and luck is such a big thing in life also. But showed up 2 weeks later. Our captain was fired because we ran aground. I was not standing watch. I was asleep.
Wild?
Yeah, it was wild, right? Yeah. I was like, I woke up, right? Because I had come off watch and someone's like, yo, we ran aground. I was like, oh, this is like, right. It's like like, oh, that doesn't happen to a lot of ships. We had run over a sandbar and we backed up and like, it wasn't any damage, but captain's overall responsible. He gets relieved. We get an interim captain for 4 weeks. The like Commodore out of, CENTCOM, took over the ship. And then got our third and final captain later. And so I got lumped in. So everybody, one of the things they found on the ship, because a big investigation why this happens, like, oh, poor culture of training, right? And like you've done a poor job developing your junior officers. And so I got, and like you have these officers that have, not gotten their SWO pins and they've been here a long time. And I got lumped into that group, even though I had only been there for 6 weeks. Yeah. Jesus. And so they're like, we got to get these guys their SWO pins. Yeah. And I was like, hell yeah, let's go. Yeah. And so, you still had to work, I worked hard, but that's why I was able to, I got it quickly, got it in March of 2009, 9 months. And then laterally, able to put in a package. Top 5 day of my life was when I got the call saying, yeah, you've been accepted.
Yeah. I mean, they do 26 spots for the academy, and I think, don't they do 26 for ROTC also?
I think, yeah. So maybe it's 26 for ROTC and OCS. I don't know. It could be, yeah.
So for a situation like yours, where does that billet come from? The
lateral transfers? Yeah, it's a good question. I think there might be like 10 to 13 lateral transfers per year. And I think the community recognizes there's like a pool of officers and, there's diversity of experience in terms of having people from different, right? You have your academy officers, you have your ROTC officers, your OCS, and then you have your fleet officers that can do this too.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's for sure a benefit to grab a guy that has some fleet experience, because that's only going to come in handy, even if it's just people but obviously there's more to it than that. That's great. You check into buds. Was it what you expected?
Oh, it was the best thing ever. Yeah. I loved it. Yeah. Oh my God. I remember when we were out of San Diego, I'd be on the ship staring at Coronado Beach, just like, how can I get there? What is that? Yeah. And it's like, oh, you're there, and now I'm looking at my ship. I remember seeing like a ship during Hell Week. I was like, oh, this is sucks to be them, right? Yeah. But yeah, it was. I loved it. It was incredible. I thought it was. People are great. The instructors are hilarious, and they're tough, and I loved every moment of it.
Do you think that you would have had that level of appreciation had you not been in the fleet for 9 months?
No, hell no. Yeah, I tell people, I was like, look, being a SEAL, the mentally and physically toughest thing, right, on the planet. Going to combat, mentally and physically tough. Being on a ship was a suck on my soul. Yeah. And there's a number of reasons, and that's just me personally, right? I think there are plenty of, surface warfare officers that love being on a ship and they're built for that job. That job I was not built for. Yeah. And that's why it was so, hard for me. So I loved every moment of it. I was like, you guys don't know how great this is. This is amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Did you make it through with your original class?
Yep. So 283, and then SQT 284 because of the officers go through junior officer training course for 4 weeks.
How is that?
JOTC or just going through
the actual junior officer course?
It's good. Yeah. I thought it was good. There's always
going to.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a good time to step back and actually, understand, right? Because in buds, yes, you're an officer, but everybody's going through, and it's like then you're with your. I think it's good to get a different class. I think it's good to get actually perspective in terms of being a SEAL officer from SEAL officers, which is a big aspect of it. Honestly, I think they should make it longer and spend more time on it. I think,
Yeah. Did obviously going through buds, there's a million memorable experiences. Is there one that stands out for you that is especially memorable?
Two things. One, and my friends, if they watch this, they'll laugh. I as a water polo player, I had to do the tread 4 times.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. I don't fucking know what was like. The instructors were baffled. I was baffled. Yeah. I was like, they're like, what the hell is wrong with you? You played water polo in college,
That's
it was
funny.
something with like treading with fins was like,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, so I swam competitively from the time I was 5. I did the USS Club swimming. I did the whole thing. And similarly, I struggled with fins. Maybe surprisingly, not surprisingly, not on the tread. I did that the first time. But, like, I wasn't a great swimmer buds-wise because we never used fins ever.
Yeah.
So, like, going from doing a lot of swimming with no fins to those fins
Yep.
is quite the adjustment for your ankles, as you well know.
Yeah.
But I had never done any open water swimming either, and guiding in rough seas and open water swimming is also very different, you know, and it's a skill set that, you know, I think almost kind of like people that do a lot of shooting but not with great instruction, they come in like it's harder for them to learn. I think it was kind of that way where it was like I had done so much fin-free guiding off of a black line in a clear pool to where I was so used to it, it was hard for me not to do that, you know. I was a good swimmer, but yeah, I struggled with the actual combat swimmer side stroke swims in buds for sure. But anything else? You said there's a second one?
Yeah, no, so actually, my class was, for whatever reason, viral gastroenteritis. It's a stomach flu bug. Yeah. Half my class got it during Hell Week. I did not, thank God. And God bless like my classmates that finished Hell Week with this bug where it's coming out both ends. And I don't know how they did it. But they did it. But the other half of our class got that on San Clemente Island, to include me. And I was probably I was patient 2 or patient. And I remember we're probably going from the classroom to the chow hall, and I have my gun, and I just yell at my buddy. I'm like, yo, take this. And I throw him my gun. And the instructor goes, Tseng, what the fuck are you doing? And I just start throwing up. He's like, never mind. You're good. Yeah. And so half the class got it on the island. And what's funny, like they were trying to quarantine us, right? They were like, all right, you guys are still doing the evolutions, but you're sick of shit and we don't want to get this. So they put us, probably like 16 of us who had it in the locker rooms, and we would sleep right next to the toilets and sleep next to the showers. But what was funny, in the stalls, it was like someone was doing like a zombie apocalypse journal, like day 4. Like the virus has taken, 4 of us, and it was hilarious. Probably still there. Yeah. So
what a
just
fucking
carving
mess.
it into the
Since it's viral, like you can't give antibiotics, right? Like,
no,
it just has to run its course.
Run its course.
How long does that take?
That was like 10 days. Yeah, it was awful.
God, that's terrible, man.
I mean, it's bad.
Yeah.
You're going to the bathroom in the middle of the night in your sleeping bag, in yourself. You're like, what am I, 1-year-old? This is
that's horrible.
So
man. So all right, so you graduate, then you end up at SEAL Team 7, right?
Yeah. SEAL Team 7. Yeah.
And what from an officer path standpoint, like when you check in, I know. We had officers, some that were very like, I'm a fucking officer, and most of them weren't. Most of them were like, hey, you guys are doing the job, I'm here to support. Like, they kind of had the hat in the hand, more humility, I think. But some of them didn't. Were you cognizant of that? Like, did you have a mission statement internally saying like, I want to be a certain way to these guys going into it?
That's a good question. I don't think I had necessarily like cognizant, this is how I'm going to be. Same mentality I had on the ship was like, I want to be the best surface warfare officer was my mentality on the ship. And the SEAL teams is like, I want to be the best SEAL officer there is. And I want to learn a lot, right? It's your first deployment. I want to be a valuable asset to the platoon. I don't want to be seen as like this, I don't want a negative reputation, right? I tell everybody, reputation's everything. Like, you want a positive reputation. And so that's probably like how I thought about things. It was like, try and do your job very well. Try to be valuable to the platoon. Be the best SEAL officer that you can be. Was kind of my mindset going in. I don't think it was like, to do that, you need to do this, right?
Do you feel like you accomplished that?
Right, there's always room for improvement. I'm very proud of the work that we did at SEAL Team 7, at SEAL Team 5, and I'm proud of the work that I did. But, I like to think I gave, I put a lot into it and put a lot of effort. I don't know if I accomplished check.
Yeah.
So,
Did your guys ever wrap you up and haze you?
No, I never got wrapped up. and I think it was like platoon specific, right? Some of my there were officers in other platoons that got it. Whatever, our platoon just
didn't do a lot of hazing.
Yeah, I was disinterested in that aspect of it.
Across the board, or just with the officers?
I mean, they had fun games for the new guys for sure, but I don't think it was. Again, we knew we were going to go to Afghanistan. We knew we just want everybody to be good SEALs and be great SEALs, and so when new guys, to include myself, inevitably mess up, right? It's you're gonna pay for messing up, but it wasn't anything that was vicious. Yeah. So.
Do you employ those same remedial strategies at Shield AI?
You should ask my teammates if I do. Yeah,
I think you should.
Actually, yeah. I think right. It's a culture of ownership, right, and taking accountability for one's actions and understanding that. And I think that's super important in any business, right? So.
Well, you're going to be held accountable one way or another, right? Yeah. Even if it's not self-accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that about the SEAL teams. Honestly, is there's no escaping it, and it just kind of forces you to focus on it. But how long were you there before you guys deployed?
So the first thing, one of the most amazing experiences that I got to have was augmenting dam neck. A couple months after I guess it was maybe 5 months after I checked into SEAL Team 7. Because when I checked in, the team was deployed. So it was we went to a couple schools, and then when they came back, they're doing, their stand down, and then I was okay, ramping pro dev, and during that time I got to go augment dam neck in Afghanistan, and that was an amazing experience. Learned a ton. I actually got to be with the troop that did the Bin Laden raid.
Oh wow!
Which was as a new guy, right? As a new SEAL officer with this mentality, I'm oh, this is amazing. I'm with the guys, and that is Cairo the dog, and that's the ground force commander, and that's it was right. And you learn how war is conducted and how special operations are conducted, and I learned an incredible amount during those 3 months that I was with them, and so
that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's super cool. Did your time there shape your path, generally speaking? Obviously you didn't go there. Was there a consideration for that?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I think. Well, look, and greatest respect to those guys and what they do, but it's right, you gotta, I'll tell you, I gotta peek behind the curtain, right, in terms of it. And I was just when I decided to leave the Navy is I just I had a number of different reasons, and that was not something on my bucket list of things that I felt I had to go pursue or wanted to go pursue.
Yeah. So, is there, I mean, not looking to cause a dust up or anything, but was there something in particular that made you decide I don't want to do that? Because I would say generally speaking, most guys in the community, it's kind of the natural progression, and most guys even if they don't do it, they have thoughts of wanting to do it. Yeah,
I definitely had thoughts of wanting to do it, and I think it was just I don't think there was anything in particular behind it, and it was that's. It was just at the end of the day, my decision to leave the Navy and pursue other things, that was not a big component of it.
Yeah,
so,
I got you.
Yeah.
How long did you do the augment for?
I think it was about 3 months. Yeah.
And that was in Afghanistan.
Yeah, Afghanistan. I was with the troop out of Logar. Then I was in LNO in Bagram. And again, it was awesome. Couldn't have been more excited. One of the cool things was there were other SEAL officers on that augment. One was a water polo teammate from mine, from the Naval Academy a year ahead of me, and then another water polo teammate from mine from 3 years ahead of me joined us 2 months later. So that was cool. But then it was just again, being with that set of guys and learning from them, I couldn't have asked for a better learning experience. And I was I was just eager, humble to support and learn. I tell people, I was like, look, my first job in the SEALs, I was a squire for the ground force commander. Like, here's your muscle milks before the op. Here's you need me to load your magazines. Happy to do it. Like,
so that was the gist of what you were doing. Like, you didn't get to go out with them at all.
No, I didn't get to go out with them. The gist was not I was a squire. I was like the liaison to the command element, the liaison to the 310, the SIGITF out there. And it was coordinating ops, coordinating with the battle force, or the battle space commanders, coordinating with, big conventional army, supporting operations, in whatever way that I could. Like, one of the cool things that I learned all about, right, our kinetic strike packages, because we guys would go out at night and we would do strikes during the day. And I did most of that when I was at Bagram, but that is something that I'm very thankful for learning about and understanding. And
I think for a SEAL officer, I mean, it's hard to imagine a better kind of intermediate on the job training pipeline than something like that to now go back to a SEAL team and be an officer. Was there anything that like completely surprised you about that command? Good or bad?
No, I think it's such an incredible place. It was right. It's an inspiring place. You go and if you ever go to the headquarters there, like, it is, got to go into the team rooms and you're like, holy smokes, right? And it's earned, it's well deserved, it's fought for, and so I loved that about it. Yeah. I'll tell you what. Sorry, one thing that I learned that was to the point of surprise, and this was coming from the ground force commander. It's and I remember this. He's like, look, you need mass to win wars. He's like, damn neck, special operations, we're not bringing any mass to the battlefield. And he's like, look, we can do really amazing operations. We can be surgical. We can, cut the head off the snake. But at the end of the day, he's like, we need our brothers and sisters in arms in the Marine Corps and the Army to actually occupy terrain, to actually win. To win large scale conflict, to win large scale battles, and we're just a small piece of this overall puzzle. Yeah. And I don't think people realize that. And I don't think a lot of times people thought special operations, they're going to go win the fight. And it's like, no, it's truly a joint effort, and you need a lot of people to actually do that. And it's what we do in the special operations community is cool. It's important, but outside of some of the strategic impacts, you need that mass that's SOCOM does not bring to the battlefield today.
Yeah. You need a lot of ass to win the war. Right?
Yeah.
All right, so you go back to SEAL Team 7 at this point. I assume that you're linking up with your platoon. And
doing the workup.
Yeah. And standard workup cycle, and then you deployed right to Afghanistan.
Right to Afghanistan, yeah.
And what year was that?
2013. Yeah.
And how were things there kind of overall pulse-wise?
Yeah. First word that comes to mind is annoying. Right, because it was like strategic uncertainty. That's why I say it was annoying for me. It's like, oh, we're here to win. It's like, well, no, we're not. This is very clear that we're not here to there's something else going on. What do you guys want us to do? Oh, we want you to train, the commandos to fight for their own country and lead the way. And you felt like it was just like business as usual in conducting operations. And so that's what it was like. Right. I'll tell you, green on blue was a very present threat, and probably green on blue and IEDs, right? It was like the things in the back of guys' mind that we would, plan around and think about. But that's what it was like. Yeah, it was how to engage the enemy when they're going into Pakistan, coming back into Afghanistan. It's like they would run away if there was air support nearby, so you couldn't engage them. You had to bring out 10 Afghans for every American. That's what it was like.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I guess, but before you went, or as you got there, did you feel like you had a significant understanding as to what your guys' mission and goals were on that deployment? Like, were you sat down and was that communicated to you by higher ups before you went?
Yeah, I think we understood our mission. We understood our goals. I don't think it was well understood how it was like glossed over in terms of like how it played into the bigger picture, but it was prepare the Afghans to, to run their own operations and like be that, tip of the spear, because we're not going to be here forever. Right. Yeah. And this is 2013. I guess Obama had won his second term. People trying to figure out Afghanistan. Right. It was like, there's the political backdrop of what's going on. So, yeah.
Because one of the things that's a pretty recurring theme with guys that I interview, and granted most of them are enlisted, is that they're like, I had no fucking idea why we were there, big picture or little picture, they're just like, no, I knew we would be doing stuff, and I just did what I was told. And it's like, I was in that same position, I was in Iraq in my early 20s, and kind of similarly, like, I was there at the start of it, so there was a little more thought put into why are we going here and what are we trying to accomplish. But to me, one of the biggest flaws I see with both of those campaigns is that, the civilian equivalent is somebody saying, well, I want to be rich. Yeah. Like, well, what does that look like? Well, I don't know. Having a lot of money. Like, well, how much is a lot? It's like, it's like this weird, super vague, undefinable goal that nobody really understands what it even looks like to accomplish it, let alone how to get from where we're at to there.
I agree. Like, in you saying this makes me think about it. It's like, right, in business, right, we say 3 years from now, here's the end objective, right? This is what the winning looks like 3 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever it is. And this is where we are every step of the way, between that time, and we can measure ourselves against this. Never saw like a 3-year campaign plan or a 5-year, or even where we fit. Maybe it was a 1 year. Didn't see where we fit into the bigger picture of doing that. And it's challenging, annoying.
Yeah. Well, and to me, like the reason I bring that up, I own several businesses, and but to me, even outside of business, but especially with business, like you would never approach business goals or owning a business that way, because if you did, you'd fail.
Yeah.
Same with getting in shape, becoming a fucking chef, getting your black belt in jiu-jitsu, being a competition shooter. Like, there's got to be a fucking plan. Like, number one, you have to know what the goal is, and it's got to be clearly defined, understood by everybody on the team. And like the military, surprisingly, as good as they are at so many other things, seem to be like woefully fucking terrible at that. Do you, like being an officer, do you have an explanation as to why you think, I know where you were at, you're not a 4-star running the show, but why do you think that's the case?
I think it's the intersection between the executive branch, Congress, and the senior DoD leadership, those 4-star, 3-stars. And I can empathize with how challenging of a problem that is. And if I put myself in their shoes, like, oh my God, that's a really awful problem to have to deal with. Doesn't mean that you don't tackle it, right? Doesn't mean just because it's awful, you don't figure it out and solve that problem. Yeah. But like when you talk about, if you had a 3-star, 4-star, ask the executive branch, what do you want this to look like, 3 years, 4 years from now? And they might say one thing. They might say, well, what's achievable? They might not. They're like, you figure it out, right? You ask Congress, well, what are my resources to actually go and accomplish this? It's like there's so much at play. That's when I think people just get lost in the bureaucratic mess and throw up their hands and say, you know what, we're just going to do the best job we can given what we know and given what we have.
Yeah. To me, understanding all of that, and I would say maybe in addition to that, the fact that there are election cycles that the turnover rate is high. When you're talking about a 20-year campaign, that's a lot of turnover politically.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And maybe, not maybe, oftentimes the replacements for certain candidates may be at a polar opposite kind of, mental paradigm as to what they want and whatever, which makes it challenging. And I also think that at a certain size, it doesn't matter how organized you are, there's going to be some disorganization. Is there a fix from your perspective, having been an officer and now, running a pretty significant size company, a way to mitigate that?
This is kind of going into like one of the reasons why I started Shield AI. I truly believe like technology can help in that area. And it's like, oh, if I could give the military all the technology in the world to like, so that it would be impossible for them to fail. It would be, they'd have an all-seeing eye. They could run every single operation. They'd have such overwhelming strength. No one would want to fight them. Like that's outside of that. Like I think it's just like a really hard, challenging problem. I don't think there are easy answers, right? Yeah. Not even that technology. That's a far out future. That's a really nice thing to think about, right? And that's a North Star for me. But
yeah, that makes sense. Before we get into the Shield AI stuff, on that first deployment, did you guys get into any significant gunfights, ticks? Were there any operations that were pretty harrowing?
Yeah, we got into good gunfights. Let's see. So a couple things. Got to be ground force commander. Probably halfway, 2/3 through deployment, our platoon commander was having a baby, and like I was senior man. I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I get to be ground force commander. We're doing this one op, and these ops were pretty standard at the time. We'd go in. There'd be again this force ratio thing that we had to do. We had to bring 10 Afghans for every single operation we did, and that's like actually it's really dangerous to do, just because I'd bring 12 guys with me and have 120 Afghans, or bring 13 guys with me and have 130 Afghans. And that is a lot of moving pieces on the battlefield. But that's what we do. We'd take a helicopter assault force package into some village area where we had intelligence, where we knew there was Taliban or Al-Qaeda, and we'd be clearing out the village, engaging with the village elders and doing shuras, et cetera. And we'd come across fights that way. On this one, and what we would do, we'd come in, in the evening time, and like we'd set up positions with the Afghans, and we'd then, Afghans they were not proficient with nods, and so they'd be clearing during the day. Actually, that might have been like a TTP too that was imposed on us. Like you must clear during the day because of again, just the sensitivities to what was going on at that time. And again, Afghans were right, we would say you can't let the Afghans fail, right? It's like that was our role. It's like for how poorly, how bad they were at executing operations and crazy stuff. They would sit down in front of the fatal funnel, like indoors. Like, what the right? I was like, do you not care about your own life? And they're like,
not really.
Like, oh my God. But so anyways, we're doing this one shura with a bunch of Afghans. Taliban opens up in front of on the population, right, and with us out there. We're returning fire. Crew comes in. There's a 9-year-old, 10-year-old boy shot through the stomach by the Taliban. We're returning fire. It's a good fight. My job, ground force commander, first win the firefight. And so I'm making sure my guys are doing the thing. I catch a moment and go in, check in on the medics who were working on this kid. And we had overwhelming firepower. But I remember we have there's 2 Afghan medics, 2 of my SEAL medics. We had a 3rd medic with us also, and he's a neighboring platoon chief, actually in Mike O'Dowd's
nice.
platoon. Yeah, because our platoon chiefs were friends. We'd bring them out on ops sometimes.
That's cool.
And I go in there, and he's smoking a cigarette. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, bullets cut through kids like a hot knife and butter. I'm like, thanks. Appreciate it. How are we doing? He's like, we got to get him out of here. He's going to die. And I was like, all right, thank you.
Fucking dirty Harry with a cigar.
Yeah. No, so anyways, we come up with a plan. I didn't want to land any helicopters, right, in that area because we were in an active firefight, active tick. And, right, and all the reasons why, right? You just seen too many horror stories about doing something like that. And so come up with a plan, have the Afghans march this guy probably 6 miles back to a FOB that was on its last day of being there. They were retrograding, quote unquote. They were tearing everything down. Got on the horn and worked a medevac situation with our TOC. But then didn't hear back this is a multi-day operation. Didn't hear back. Didn't hear anything. Like, oh my God, that kid died. That sucks. And then we flew back. Turns out we got a medevac. He got treatment, and we're like, oh, and he's all right. We're like, oh, this is amazing, right? So that was a cool, fun story. That was a fun win. Very proud of the guys for doing what they did. Yeah.
Do you remember, how was the kid handling it? Was he even conscious?
He was conscious. Yeah, he was there.
It's hard to
Kids'
imagine.
resilience to pain is and how quickly they recover. Actually, also, I think he was at our fob for probably like 10 days, and there's a AK-47 round right through his stomach.
Wow.
I mean, we brought him stuff and like candy and Cokes, and he was just like, look, you're gonna have a cool scar that you get to tell all the girls about later. He was in good spirits. Yeah.
So I'm curious, so after that, I mean, you guys get him to where he's stable, healed up enough to sort of go back to normal life. Like, do you just go drop him back off?
Yeah, they I don't know who works this. Like, it wasn't our SEAL platoon. We're working with Talk, working with like the IO people. They identify like where his family is and like figured out that like, oh, he has an uncle that can be right. Afghanistan, people don't realize, is like the size of North Carolina, right? You can actually drive across the entire country, and so they figure out where his uncle is, and uncle comes and picks him up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine like being a father, thinking of an environment where one of your kids gets shot like that and just gets whisked away by a foreign military.
Yeah. We told them, right? We told the villagers like, hey, we're gonna take him back. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I can't even fucking imagine. Like, I mean, man, were there any green on blue issues that you guys had?
Not that we had. No, we're super thankful, right? And like part of it, you get like lucky. Part of it's your force projection, what you're doing. This is because you'd run ranges for the Afghans so that they could train and learn how to shoot, and that's like where like the vast majority of green on blues would occur. And so we set up like I think it was like Guardian Angel, where you'd have like our snipers like behind everybody watching everything. But it always this is the dark part of the SEAL teams, right? You make the new guys be the range the range masters. And they're like, hey, you're gonna watch me, right? They're like, we got you, brother. But we were good to go. So
that's dicey.
Yeah, you can laugh about afterwards.
Were there any operations that you went on that were huge successes tactically?
Yeah, I think we had a lot of like nice tactical wins, right? I'm super proud of the fact that we did our job. We brought it to the enemy. We didn't lose anybody on the deployment, and I can't say like that was true for the whole siege of SOTF or for our SOTF that we were operating in. And so, but like, great tactical victories where we racked up EKIAs, but the tactical victories obviously don't matter too much in the long run, as we now know.
Yeah.
So,
well, especially now, you know, and depending on how things wrap up. But did you guys have dogs with you?
Yep. Yeah. I forgot. Yeah. We had, and I looked this up the other day just because I was like, I remember who the dogs were. We had two dogs. One was an NPC SEAL handler that was attached with us. I think it was from Team 10 for like the first month of our deployment. And then we had to have a dog handler on loan from our sister platoon because I don't think we have. So it was Artos and Aido, A-I-D-O.
Oh, okay. Both East Coast dogs?
No idea. Yeah. Different performance. I will say that. Artos was solid.
Yeah, not as much. Any good stories from either of them?
From the dogs, I'll tell you. There's a bad story about Ido. Like we were doing this one mish, and we're going in. There's dogs leading the way, point man, and there's motorcycles. Taliban would be on motorcycles all day, every day. And turns out, like, oh, crap, there's IEDs. Like, fourth man in notices there's IEDs on the motorcycles. Like, and they're not rigged. They're going to be used afterwards. Yeah. But I'm like, what the fuck? Like, these are like, right there. So it was all right. It was fun. We blew up those motorcycles. Taliban comes over on the ICOM radios, and they're like, "What are you doing with our motorcycles?" Because they could see us. We're like, "Fuck you guys, we're blowing them up." They're like, "No, please don't." We're like, "Fuck you guys,
please don't."
Yeah,
Dude,
I don't know if they said please. But they're like, "Don't."
Yeah, like the fact that they're coming over the
Yeah.
radio and arguing with you guys about.
We blew those
Yeah,
up.
that's fucking wild. So it sounds like a fairly standard deployment. Otherwise, 6 months.
7 months. 7-month deployment.
So you came home. Did you reflect at all on after that first deployment of kind of how you did, how it went? Here's what I could have done better. Here's what I want to do for the next. Like, was that something that was?
Yeah. I think. Well, yes and no. I think I was doing it towards the end of the deployment. So one of the things that happened, I was supposed to go to SEAL Team 10. One of my friends and fellow officers that I went through Bud's SQT with, he had family issues. He was at SEAL Team 5, and they called me up, and like my wife and I were expecting to go to Virginia, do another workup, like take time, move out there, do pro WLT. He's like, "Hey, do you want my job at SEAL Team 5 as a platoon commander?" And I was like, "Yeah, let me check in with the wife. Let me see if she wants to stay in San Diego. Like, you guys are about to start workup, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." And called my wife. I'm like, "Do you want to go to stay in San Diego? We gotta, here's the catch, right? I'm coming home, 4 weeks later, I'm starting another workup, and you know what that's like." And so she's like, "Yeah, let's do it." So
did she ask you if you wanted to do it?
No, I asked her if she wanted to stay in San Diego. I was like, "I'm good either way." Yeah.
But I mean, thinking of it from like if I put myself in her shoes, like my first question would be like, "Well, do you want to do it?"
Yeah. She probably did. I don't remember. I think I wanted to. I liked the idea. Things lined up timing wise. I think at that point I had decided I was gonna, leave after my platoon commander tour. And I was like, "Oh, this works out timing wise." I think, I did. I loved San Diego. Had great friends in San Diego. I didn't want to. Right, when you get back and then you go through, you're redeploying, and then you go through a pro dev cycle, and it's like, I liked the idea of getting right back into it, which is bonkers, but like,
would you have done your platoon commander billet at Team 10? It just would have taken longer.
It just would have taken longer.
I got you.
Yeah,
that makes sense. What was that like?
Maybe it was 10 or 2, one of those. What was?
I mean, there's obviously even though being an AOIC is a big fucking responsibility, it's a big deal. Like I wouldn't say it's nothing compared to being an OIC, but when you're in the OIC, like you're the fucking guy.
Yeah.
Was that pressure very noticeable? The difference?
So I don't think it was, but the reason that is because, like, again, my platoon commander and great friend to this day and great mentor, and he's actually a classmate of mine from the Naval Academy, same year group. But he left right month 4 of deployment to go have a baby, and I was the guy in Afghanistan, briefing the commander, overall responsible for everything that's happening on the ground. And so I was like, this is, no problem with this. And so I felt like that going into my and then you're confident after that deployment too, right? There's a lot of confidence that I had. It's like, great, brought everybody home, took it to the enemy, and and I got to do that for the last 3 months that we're there, and I was proud of this stuff. So I was good going into my platoon commander role.
Yeah. When you jumped in there, did you give the troops a speech like hey, I'm the
Probably not a very good one, right? Looking back, right? Yeah, I'm sure I had like a platoon briefing at some point in time where it's like, "Hey guys, just want to let you know this is who I am. This is what we're going to be like. This is the platoon that we're going to be strive for. This is where I'm coming from."
Did you have any problems with any of your guys as a platoon commander?
The first day I check in, one of my guys gets a DUI. Talk to come in with the CO and the master chief, and he's like saying, "What the fuck?" And I was like, "Check, sir."
Day one.
Yeah, no, I know, yeah, but I appreciate that aspect of the Navy, right? It's your problem day one. You own it, right? I don't care that there were these issues like tracking, sir, I got it, and I think they know that in the back of their head, but like, again, you still have to own it. So actually one of the things I think we had the right differences in cultures in terms of like my platoon at SEAL Team 7 versus SEAL Team 5. They were a work hard, party hard. Team 5. Like, sorry, my platoon. I don't want to speak for all of Team 5.
I will. I was at least when I was in Team 5, they were the guys.
Yeah.
They were the fucking. They were the libo wrists every fucking time.
Yeah, they were libo. Yeah, and I was like. It was amazing, right? Incredible warriors, like super aggressive, everything you
would
want.
Vikings.
Yeah, my platoon patch is the Death Viking.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah,
and so, but I'm proud that I'll take some credit. I think some of these guys self-realized and matured along the way, right? And I'm super proud. Now they're senior chiefs and like master chiefs, and it's cool to see them.
Yeah,
but
it's
weird. But I'm proud of that cultural change. It took time in the platoon and like working with them because it's like, this is, you're just gonna mess things up, and like it's talking to young guys who are like, just want to party hard afterwards.
Was that the only issue that you ran into
at Team 5?
While you were a platoon commander with any of your guys, did any?
So we had another guy. This same guy got another DUI like 4 weeks later or something like that, and so we had to. He got separated from the Navy. It was nothing.
All right, so you take over the platoon. Pretty standard workup as far as the actual workup going, the training blocks.
One thing they did during this workup that was different than the others, they had compressed it, which was like they took away like during ULT, I think we had 3 weeks back at the command. And so it was 2 months gone, 1 week back. 2 months gone, 1 week back. And I remember like going through it, and I was like, oh man, I'm like kind of tired.
Especially jumping right back into it,
Yeah, because normally, right, you'd get like 2 or 3 weeks or like a week between. You'd do like, I don't know, 4 weeks of land warfare, and then you'd take like 2 weeks, and then you'd go to San Clemente to do SALC. And like, but it was like, nope, you're going from land warfare, you have the weekend, you're packing up to like guys are going to work over the weekend, pack trucks, and like you're going to San Clemente or something like that. Yeah. That was different. And I forget why. It was like to get the teams back on a normal rotation schedule or whatever it is. But I remember even like my LPO and our chief were like, this is like different. This is a little boring. This is tiring.
I'm assuming you had an AOIC.
Yeah, I had 2 AOICs.
Oh, okay. Yep. In terms of the congruency or getting along with your AOICs, plural, chief, LPO, did you guys mesh pretty well, or did you have any conflict?
Yeah, I think they did. I think we did a good job. I don't think there's any. It's like pretty standard stuff, right? Yeah. So,
did you ever have to get into a pissing contest with any of them?
No.
Everything was cool.
Yeah.
Are you more of a delegator, like I'm going to stand out of your way, or are you more on the micromanage side?
I think I was telling you my favorite quote, like chase perfection to capture excellence. And so I'm very detail oriented.
Yeah.
And I think that is a hard thing for guys. And I didn't know this back in the day, right? And then in hindsight, it'd be like, look, I care a lot about the details. Here are my expectations. Like, this is how we got to run things. And so I was probably somewhere in the middle of those guys having to learn to work with me on that aspect. And it's like, oh yeah, I like to think I have really high standards. So
yeah. That makes sense. Going back over to Afghanistan, that's where you went, right?
No, third. Okay. So third deployment was the Pacific.
Okay.
Which was a vacay. No, it wasn't. I mean, it was super nice. Yeah. Afghanistan, no West Coast teams, platoons were going there. No West Coast teams were going there. ISIS had just invaded Iraq. We sent, I think, 1 platoon out there, and right, everybody was nervous. I'm like, God dang, are those guys gonna get after it? They didn't, because you just get, you don't want your friends to get after it, and you be stuck in the Pacific. And I told my guys, like, don't worry, they're not gonna do anything. And you'll get yours. And actually, I was. My guys, on the next deployment, all my guys in Alpha Platoon, they got after it in Iraq. And I was like, look, it's all timing, luck, and I promise you, like, those guys, I was telling them, don't worry about them. They're not going to get after it, and they didn't do any ops out there. So
I know it. I mean, we kind of ran into a similar thing as Iraq was kicking off. We were a Pacific platoon. We were in Guam. We had all these exercises lined up, the Philippines, Thailand, you name it. And then as Iraq was heating up, SEAL Team 5 had to come relieve us in Guam early so that we could go to Iraq and let me talk about a fucking a tension-filled turnover. Those guys fucking hated us for it. They're like, you motherfuckers are going to Iraq and we got to sit here in Guam. And, it's just like, it's not because we're better. It's just a timing thing. And,
It's so funny that mentality exists. You don't want your friends to have,
good
cooler stories, better deployments than you.
Well, I mean, what kind of sucks about that, I think a lot of it's human nature, but that carries out of the SEAL teams. It's like in the entrepreneur space, I would say with most guys, they want you to do well, really well, just not better than them. You see it all the fucking time. I think it's just with AA personality dudes, they're just super competitive and they want to be at the fucking top. But so with that deployment, did you guys go to Guam, I assume?
Yep, went to Guam. I don't know, cool highlights. We got to do the POTUS mission. So
nice.
Hung out with Secret Service, hung out with the President of the United States. There's one fun story there. Secret Service comes in, they're like, hey guys, just so you know, President wants to spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes with you. I don't know, it's December 27th.
This is 15, 14?
2015, December 2015.
Okay. So
no, sorry. December 2014.
Okay. So it was Obama.
Obama. Yep. And, it's funny, typical team guys. They're like, I was like, hey guys, we're going to go meet the president tomorrow. Make sure you get a haircut. All right. Make sure you have, shaved. We're in collared t-shirts and, tucked in pants. And, probably half the platoon, they're like, I don't want to fucking go. I didn't vote for him. Fuck that. And I was like, shut the fuck up, guys. We're gonna go meet the President of the United States. It's gonna be cool. We go meet with the President of the United States. It was really cool. And afterwards, those guys, the same people who are saying, oh, fuck that, I don't want to do, they're like, oh, did you see how cool it was hanging out with Obama and how he was joking with us? I was like, that guy just brainwashed you in 5 seconons. Is that all it took? He's like, no, dude, we had a connection. I was like, I don't know.
He wanted you to have a connection. I mean, he's a smooth dude.
That's
sure.
right. Those guys are the best, politicians, right?
Yeah. I mean, I got to meet President Bush, W. Bush, here, not even in, it was, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, probably. And, he's obviously older and it shows, but still, within, I don't know, 30 seconds of fucking meeting him, I immediately got it, that dude's ability to read the room, work the room, and be just the right amount of fucking charming and personable.
Yep.
And it would change from person to person.
100%.
There was only a few of us in the room, but I got to spend almost 2 hours with him and ask him a bunch of fucking questions and whatever. And I was astounded at how good he was at dealing with people.
That's awesome.
And to me it was that, that's the level you have to be at to get to that position, and they all are. Now I will say, I think our current president is not that way anymore. I think he used to be, or at least was better than he is now. But but I mean, at that level, all those guys are, I think, masterful at manipulating people. I mean, that's the reality of it. They just do. But all right, so assuming you're in Guam, you meet the president. Did you guys do anything else that was noteworthy?
Yeah, 2 things. One, one of the things I'm proud of. We jumped into the South China Sea, which was a really cool thing, right? I was like, got to jump into the South China Sea. We planned that up. We did operations in the Strait of Malacca, which
were they training or
training ops? But it was hey, this is, now looking back on it, apparently it's become this exercise has become a regular thing. And so, right, it's, I thought that was cool. And then perhaps one of the cooler things I got to do, and Platoon was distributed, sent guys all over the place. I was, we were the first SEAL team back in Vietnam since the Vietnam War. And so there had been other SEALs, but never a SEAL, SEAL Team 5, me as the representative of SEAL Team 5. First SEAL team back in Vietnam.
How was that?
It was awesome. I spent 4 weeks in Vietnam. We were working with their Navy, working with their Coast Guard. they hate China, which was really interesting, right?
Yeah.
All of Southeast Asia does not like China.
Really?
Yeah.
What? Why not? Do you know?
Just because they're bullies in the neighborhood. Yeah. It's kind of like the gist of it. But I don't know. There was like, it was wild. I do remember like two things. I went to the Hanoi Hilton, which is a museum, and didn't really have any expectations about what that was going to be like. They have this small room for the American side. And I remember going in there and it was just like, I just got angry, which was an emotion that I didn't necessarily expect. And it's just like they were just lies, right? Propaganda lies about how prisoners were treated, et cetera. So that was interesting. And then also what was also pretty cool was like we went out for like a karaoke thing with and like a cultural team building thing, but with one of the MiG pilots from the Vietnam War. And that was, it was wild. This guy's like, yeah, I shot down Americans during, the American war that we had. And it was just like surreal, how that works. So.
Yeah. Was there a tension at all hearing him talk about that? Like,
No, I think I had known him. I wasn't up like, again, and, I think you were talking about this because I was watching this, I think, with like Mike. It's like, right, he was doing what he was supposed to do for his country, right? Yeah. And it's like, I'm not going to hold that against him, right? Yeah. In terms of like something that happened 55 plus years before or whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can imagine. I can imagine how surreal it would be hearing somebody tell those stories. I mean, no different than like seeing some interviews with like German machine gunners on D-Day that were, talking about gunning American guys down. And the recurring theme with all of them was that, they just kept coming, and they killed tons of them, but then, ultimately ended up getting overrun. And every single one of them had the same thought process once they were captured, which was what a fucking waste. Like all of them thought that, which is interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, why did we just kill all these people for this? Like they took us over anyway. Like we could have not killed them all and still been here,
Yeah.
Which is rare, I think, for an enemy to be conscious of something that profound, I think. But it sounds like a neat experience. Did you guys do anything to kind of commemorate the fact that it was the first time a SEAL platoon?
Yeah, I mean, they gave me, I think, some like small brass gong or something, and we did like a big dinner, and that was neat.
Yeah. What did you guys eat?
I don't know. Sorry, a lot of Vietnamese food. I ate a lot of pho is what I ate there. That was like, all right, this is safe. We went to some markets, which were like, wow, those are some crazy, markets.
Wuhan bat market.
Oh,
man, that's wild shit. No idea what the meat is in the pho. Is it better than the pho here? Like, did you?
I think it was. Yeah, it was good. It was good. Yeah, it was good food. Yeah.
All right. So, any other highlights from the vacation deployment?
Yeah, the vacation deployment. No, I think those were like the big ones. Yeah.
Overall, the platoon collectively weren't too butthurt about doing that and not being.
No, because again, like nothing. They were. I think I'm very proud of the platoon in terms of like how. Everything we did during that deployment, because it was like everybody was on standby elsewhere. It was like we had no Liberty incidences that were reported. Got
caught anyway.
I think the platoon was super professional during that deployment, and none of our brothers in arms got to get after it. And so then those guys, I employ some of those guys now. And the deployment right after that I went on like another 2-year rotation where they took it to ISIS. Those stories are wild. And like I'm proud of the guys and what they accomplished there.
Yeah.
So
I wonder, are any of them in a position where they could come on and tell some of those stories?
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. I could
or
ask
that
them.
Would maybe.
Yeah. They're like, they're Mad Max type stories.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Because I've had a lot of guys on the show over the years. I've not had anybody to tell that story. You know, the ISIS in Iraq.
Yeah.
Post Iraq withdrawal, so I would love to get one of those guys on here. But all right, so you go back. At that point, you had already known that you were going to exit the Navy, and to me, it's cool that you got kind of the best of both worlds. And that, to me, I would imagine that if you hadn't gotten to have been the OIC for that last 3 months and had only been a platoon commander for a training deployment, basically, that probably would have kind of sucked, but you kind of got the best of everything, it sounds like.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. I had even my time as a SWO, like I got everything the Navy had to offer. I was like, so
you're never on a submarine though, right?
No, only 10 days as a midshipman. 10 days.
It's 11 more than you probably need, right? All right. So what was the process from when you got back until you got out, and was Shield AI something that you had already thought about at that point, or was it, let me go get my MBA and then I'll figure it out?
Yeah. So I got accepted to Harvard in December 2014 when I was on deployment. Got an email or a phone call or whatever it was, and I was like, okay, cool. Now I got to figure out what I want to do next. Again, I'm a bit of a high level planner, not a detailed planner. Like as a 10-year-old, I wanted to be a Navy SEAL, right? Yeah. And so I was like, oh crap, I got to figure out what I want to do because I'm not going to do that. Some people are like, oh, figure it out at business school. I was like, no, why wouldn't you just figure it out now? Especially when I'm on this like nice deployment, right? Yeah. And so was doing a lot of reading and reading. So my brother, he's like, you need to look into AI. Like this is gonna be the next internet, big thing. Cause he's a technology guy. And I was like, okay. And was reading a lot on AI, was trying to figure out what I want to do, decided I want to do something entrepreneurial, decided I want to do something with AI. Decided hadn't yet figured out the problems that I want to solve, and so fast forward to still thinking about all right, what problems can I solve? In April of 2015, I coalesced on the problems that I wanted to solve. Actually, I needed Admiral McCraven is my inspiration for this.
Really?
Yeah.
Does he know that?
Yeah, no, I don't think he does. It is not like a positive light necessarily.
He's about to know.
Yeah, he's about to know. No, SOCOM had this Iron Man program.
Yeah.
Right. It was Talos. I don't know if you remember this. It was big in the news, and from 2000, after Iron Man 2 probably came out, they started this program we want to build Iron Man. And there I was watching some news update, and maybe McCraven was talking about it, and I was like, that is so I was like, why would you stick a person in that suit of armor when you can have an AI do it, right? Which is the plot of Avengers 2 or whatever.
Yeah. And Terminator 2.
Yeah, and Terminator. But I was like, and if you put a person in a suit of armor, I don't care how good that armor is, when you talk about the shocks of taking a 50 cal, you're gonna get, it doesn't matter how much armor you're wearing.
Fucking stepping on an IED.
Yeah, or stepping on an IED, right? And so I was like, just have an AI do it, and that led to oh my God, what if AI was actually flying a lot of our drones? Because my aha moment was, there's this technology AI that for every thing that you asked it to do, it was surpassing expectations and beating people at it, right? Whether it was chess, whether it was, now you look at chess, Go, Alpha Star, you look at self-driving cars, right? And actually they're a lot safer than the statistically better drivers. And so it's oh, holy smokes, it's just better at everything. Now you can put it on a robot, a drone, because the computers are fast enough to do it, and then sensors are now cheap enough where it can actually perceive what it's doing. And that was my aha moment. It was holy smokes, the time is now where the intersection of AI and robotics is going to have profound impacts on the military, and you can have one person commanding 10,000 drones, and that is going to change the world order. It's going to change everything as we think about deterrence and security, and what's that mean on the battlefield was kind of my mindset.
Where were you when you had that moment?
In my brother's living room, where he had the news on. He had his kitchen, and I think we were just hanging out. It was post deployment, a couple weeks.
So you were technically still in the military when you?
Yep. Yeah.
At that point, obviously it didn't change your thought process in terms of your path. You still were I need to go to Harvard, get the MBA.
Yeah, I talked to my brother. I was like, what do you think? So first of all, I brought him this idea, and he's like, hey, Brandon, sounds like a really noble mission, right? Mission to protect service
It's a
members.
good way to
civilians.
politely say,
Yeah,
that
he's
shit's
like,
not going to work.
Yeah, he basically sounds like a horrible business idea.
Yeah.
He's like, but you know what? I'm going to help you self-realize it's a horrible business idea. Go talk to 100 people. Like, you'll learn through that. It's called customer discovery, that your idea sucks and like it's not worth your time.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. And this is arrogant, whatever, 26-year-old, 27-year-old me. I was like, if that's what it takes to get you on board, I'll do it. But this is a waste of time because I already know the answer. It wasn't a waste of time. I learned a lot through that process. Brought him along for that, for a lot of those interviews. And he's like, all right. Well, he's like, there might be something here.
So what does a standard interview look like for the customer thing?
So there's a lot of different types, right? And there's some like, what am I gonna, like, bad advice out there who's like, oh, don't tell anybody about your idea, right? It's like, because people just steal your ideas. Like, that does not happen, right? It rarely happens. And it's basically just asking people about their problems, asking about how people are thinking about solutions. And so that's the conversations that you're having. Like, I'm literally just interviewing. I could, like, if you're a SEAL platoon member, I'm like, what is, the most dangerous thing you do? Why do you, how do you think you could do that better? Do you think, would this be interesting to you? Why or why not? Would a quadcopter that goes inside buildings autonomously be interesting to you? You'd say, well, this is what it would have to do. Well, why does it have to do that? And I'm just like digging to truly understand like what your pain points are. And so you do that across 100 different people and you get a lot of different inputs. Yeah. And then you have to filter out like negative inputs because people say some crazy shit. Well, you should do this. Like, no, that doesn't make sense versus. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a way to package that all into a digestible synopsis in terms of the results? Like, it sounds like doing that with 100 people, it would be difficult to extract everything valuable and get rid of what's not valuable and not have it just be like overwhelming.
You're writing it all down and then so you're taking notes afterwards, you're documenting it, and then you're just like, I think you're reflecting on it, right? And you go in with a hypothesis. My hypothesis, right, going in was AI and autonomy are going to have a profound impact on the military. The military of 2035 should be, and this is in 2015, so 20 years later, the military of 2035 should be powered, maneuvered, commanded by AI. It should be in every single one of our assets, from a fighter jet to an aircraft carrier to a submarine, et cetera. And that was what I was trying to validate, that future state. And then also like validate some of the in-close stuff as we thought about it, because it's like, okay, great grand vision. How do you get there? Came up with this strategy of stair-stepping our way there, and started with a problem that was meaningful to me, clearing buildings of threats. Figured out, let's put this AI pilot that we've built on a quadcopter first to solve that problem. And so I was working closely with, the SOCOM community in terms of understanding how they thought about that, getting them energized about that aspect of it too. Also trying to, my initial idea was like, oh, I should just put like a gun on, 15 different drones, and then I'm going to show them with blanks that I can decimate a SEAL platoon at an island, right? Because I know that a swarm of drones is going to outmaneuver a platoon in land warfare in that type of environment. But talk to enough people and they're like, no, like think about this problem and think about it for this reason. And that was really helpful, those customer interviews.
Yeah. Super fascinating stuff. And I want to come back to that, but I would like to, I guess, just kind of cover the MBA experience and then ultimately, like, it's one thing to have a great idea and even get the customer feedback, but then how you actually apply it. So how long was the MBA program? Like, how long did that take?
August 2015 to May 2017.
Wow.
3-month summer internship, I was just working on Shield AI during that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was an impactful part of your life, and you learned a lot. About how big was is there a graduating class?
Yeah, there's a cohort. It's about 1,000 students. You're split up into different classes of about like 90. And so, yeah.
Is it mostly online?
No, it was all in person.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it still?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. During COVID, they did like some online nonsense.
So you're there at Harvard.
Yep.
Doing the thing.
And
you were married.
I was married.
So you brought your wife there.
Brought my wife. Yep.
Yeah. How was Boston for a couple of years?
Oh, it was solid. I love Boston. Boston's a cool city.
Yeah. I was just talking about
good
this
people.
yesterday.
Yeah.
It's my favorite city, actually.
Good police officers, good people. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Were there any negative experiences at Harvard?
No, not overwhelmingly negative, right? There's like small annoyances, but nothing in particular. Yeah. Someone tried to pick a fight with me, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah. How did you?
I showed up for they're like, oh, like we're gonna do an intramural flag football, and like someone, I don't know, was pushing off them, and he was like, let's go. And we're all right, let's do this. He's like, no, I'm just kidding. I was like, no, you're not. You don't do that.
So he fucking chickened out?
Yeah, he backed down. He's a good friend of mine now, which is funny. Yeah, but he didn't know me. He didn't know my background. I was like, this is why. He's like, look, you got to be careful who you mouth off to. You never know.
He's a good friend now, though.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. He laughs. He knows about it. He laughs about it.
But you trust him completely?
He's a good friend. I trust him. Yeah.
To me, it would be hard to become friends with somebody that did something like that.
Yeah.
To me, if somebody tried to do something and then back down, I'd be like, to me, when push comes to shove, you're probably not the guy I'm going to depend on.
I had to work with him on a project for 12 weeks, and that's when I got to know him. And that's when you're like, all right,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
if that had been my one experience, I probably would have you're
not for me.
Yeah. But we were literally forced to work on a group project together. I was like, all right, let's address the elephant in the room first.
Did that group of 90, is that kind of really the only people that you know? Like, did you know any of the other 1,000?
You get to know, right? It's a big social setting, so you get to know a lot of different people.
Yeah.
So there's, I don't know. I know a lot of people from there, but
Did politics ever, I guess, play a role or get infused into any of your classes? Obviously, the MBA pipeline is very different than Gen Ed or political science or whatever. But was there a political element at all that you?
Not really. Like in the education aspect, we took this it's like government. I don't know, in international economics, where they talk about, it's like all governments, right? Where you're learning about how other countries are run and et cetera. But no, politics was not really an aspect of the classroom. But the election happened while I was there, and that was wild for me to see, like people's reactions. It was crazy.
Losing their fucking mind.
I remember running into a friend of mine who's she's just like walking down the street and she's crying, and I was like, is everything okay? Like in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, did her husband do something to her? Like what's going on? It's like, oh my God, Trump won. I was like, oh.
That's why you're crying?
Yeah. And not everybody's like that, just to be clear. Right? It's like,
I guess, having not spent any time on the campus there, I mean, is there a vibe or a feeling that it's politically swayed to a certain direction? Or?
I think, so there's the undergrad campus and the business school, and actually the Kennedy School, which is their public policy campus, public administration campus, and they're separate from the business school. And so I think what you find at the business school, right? People self-select, right? And the business school is pro-capitalist. And so, one, you don't really see politics talked about. It's not like people can have discussions about it, but it's not like
in your face.
Like people aren't protesting on the campus grounds in any way, on the business school campus, which is across the river. And then, again, I think, right, having people with business mindsets, they lean towards and is like, okay, let's think about rational outcomes here and logic here before anything. And so I think it's more conservative in that sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So during that 2-year-ish period, you're building you're kind of developing the Shield AI business plan and formula.
We were working on it. August. So my brother and I, we formed the company in May 26, 2015.
Oh, wow.
We brought on our third co-founder in late June, early July. We were like, cool, this is what we're going to do. We met at an MIT conference room he was working at, an MIT spin-off lab, Draper Laboratory up there. And discussed values, discussed vision for the company and what we wanted to be and where we're going to take this thing, formed a team. Said, hey, we're going to go raise money in Silicon Valley. So 2 weeks before I started business school, I went out to Silicon Valley. Through my brother's MIT network, we got connected to, he went to MIT Business School. We got connected to a bunch of investors. We had been given advice like, oh yeah, you guys could probably raise like $3 million out there. You guys have like, you're all high performers. You have a good idea. Like, what's not to like? And we went out there and went 25 for 25 no's. And like to a T, every single one was like, hey, that sounds like a really noble mission, but like sounds like a horrible business idea. Like, thanks, but no thanks. And you get told no. You get told no in endless amount of times as an entrepreneur. Doing a venture capital-backed startup, you get told no all the time. Yeah. So you try to take what logic makes sense and what maybe people are missing and find, how to adjust course. But
So I'm curious. I mean, putting myself in that position, I would think there would be a little bit of a almost like a cat and mouse or like cause and effect of developing a business, starting a business, and having a startup while you're going through business school where you sit in on a class and you're like, shit, I fucked that up. We got to change this. We're doing this all right. Like almost this like constant back and forth. Was there any of that?
No, like for an early stage technology company, it was like, let's figure out how to build a prototype and like, there's three of us. So it's hard there's not a whole lot that you can fuck up in the grand scheme of things. Right. It's like,
I'd figure out a way.
Yeah. What you're learning in the business school is like, in so many of the companies, and they call them case studies, right? They do a case study on all these companies and all these, call them like chapters in these businesses' lives and the decisions made. But those are all for like lots of time, larger, more mature, companies. They don't tell you like what to do if you're a 3-person startup with like an idea. Yeah. Actually, like one of the things that was surprising at Harvard, because I was like, oh my God, everybody's going to want to do a startup here. Everybody's going to want to change the world. And then you get there and you're like, are you an idiot? Like, why are you doing a startup? Like everybody knows those fail, right? 100% of them fail. Like I was like, are you sure it's 100%? They're like, yeah. And I was like, but that mentality, it caught me off guard in terms of like how few people wanted to do something.
So. It was much more kind of cynical and almost bitter about startups where it was like, no, you got to go into the machine first. And
I think, I don't know what it is. People just get attracted to consulting, get attracted to investing, get attracted to, private equity. But what's interesting is like, and I don't like, again, I have a lot of friends who are doing those and they're incredibly smart people. It's like, I always was like, but the cases we're studying are all like, there was an entrepreneur that started them,
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's the safer, easier play. But none of the things that are cutting edge or that we enjoy would really exist if people hadn't had those ideas and went for it. So, all right. So you make it through your building. At what point during that path did your first prototype actually come to fruition to the point where you could test it?
Yeah. Gosh, that must have been in like January or February or March of 2016. And our first, great credit, SOCOM, Naval Special Warfare, first ones to take a look at it. And it was an autonomous quadcopter that went inside buildings ahead of special operations forces and infantry forces. And when you don't have, like, because my brother and our co-founder, Andrew, what they were focused on, like, build the prototype. And they're like, Brandon, go find us money. And I was like, yep. And Harvard's a great place to go look for money too. And so did that prototype in March. Customer said, like, look, I think there's something here. And we got $1 million. We got notified that we were going to get $1 million award in April of 2016. A couple of investors I had been talking to said, yeah, good enough proof for us. We'll write you a $2.5 million check. Didn't get the award till August of 2016. And then, I'll say like off to the races. There's a lot of other stuff that goes on, but
The award, is that like a grant?
It's a contract. No, it was like, we're going to pay you to do and deliver this.
I got you.
Which was a prototype.
Yeah. How did that go?
It went well. I think a lot of people learned about it. Actually, like one of the fun stories there's a master chief at Naval Special Warfare. He was a technician, master chief, but he like we're trying to get this money, and I learned about this years later. Like $1 million, which is not a lot of money for the government. And we were working with Defense Innovation Unit, and God bless them, but they were a startup too. And in 2016, people were like, "Wait, why are you giving $1 million to these people? Like that's that's not going to go anywhere. It's going to be nothing." And credit to this master chief, he told the person at Defense Innovation Unit at the time, he's like, "Shut the fuck up. Just give us the money. Like, you guys aren't going to be around next year anyways," right? To this government organization. He's like, everybody knows you guys are gone. Yeah. And, great credit to DIU, right? They're flourishing, in 2024, and they're doing really incredible stuff. But everybody felt no one was going to be around. Yeah. So, but yeah, it was, the prototype was, there's like, you could see a lot of promise and how, like, what it could do, and it was amazing. And there's like so many challenges. So,
was there a biggest challenge?
Autonomy is really hard. We didn't know. Like, one of the thing I tell people, like, one of the core strengths of entrepreneurs is like how ignorant you are about how hard a problem is. And actually, I like love Jensen Huang from NVIDIA. Recently, gave a speech at Stanford. He's like, no, that's like, as an entrepreneur, you just don't know how hard something is going to be, or you think it's going to be easier than it is, and so you pursue it, and then you have to figure it out. We had picked the hardest autonomy problem on the planet. One, it was like size, weight, and power constraint, right? This has to be a quadcopter that can, that a team guy can bring around. And so you're limited by how big it is, which means you're limited on the compute and the sensors that you can carry, which then limits your performance. And then it was like things that we didn't, and then we were flying inside buildings, and there are crazy wind vortices when you're close to walls. There are dust issues, right? In terms of like, we would go into these mud huts, right? And the fight was still, Iraq, Afghanistan. And that's what, these sensors performed really poorly in all of this obscurance. And so, God, we probably killed like so many quadcopters. I don't know, 200 plus.
And what does one of them cost, or what did it cost then?
Back then, so these were like $110,000 is what we would charge for it. So in terms of a product, we actually don't build them anymore.
I got you.
So, yeah.
But so for you guys though, that's what you charge. But if you're destroying 200 of them.
Yeah, they weren't costing that much to do. They were still expensive, and those were prototypes that we were destroying before we got to the finished product. Yeah. But yeah.
Okay. All right. So one of the things, obviously, family is a big part of Shield AI. Has that ever actually caused problems? Like, have you ever a sibling rivalry, like, you're my brother, you're not my fucking boss? Like, have you ever run into any of that kind of stuff?
There are pros and cons to working with, and primarily, like, I'm talking about my older brother here, who's CEO. And so there's pros and cons in terms of siblings working together. And right, I think both of us relatively high performing. His background, he built and sold a wireless power company to Qualcomm. He did a second company, consumer products company. It was on Shark Tank, did well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Kitchen safe.
Oh, no shit. That's awesome. Did he tell you about that experience, like in depth, or did you?
Yeah, I know. Oh, I saw it. That was like part of my ignorance too. I was like, why are you went from wireless power, deep technology, right? If your phone charges wirelessly, like there's a very, very, very good chance it's from the technology that he invented and then helped commercialize at Qualcomm. Wow. I was like, why you go from wireless power to like Timelock Tupperware? Like, what the hell are you doing? He's like, look, I want to understand consumers more, and like I want to do like mass manufacturing. Yeah. And I didn't appreciate that, and now I do appreciate. Like, I didn't appreciate that back in 2013 or 14 or whenever he was doing it. And now I appreciate. Like, you learn a ton about consumers. You learn a ton about manufacturing when you do something like that, because they've built hundreds of thousands of those things. Yeah.
Any pissing contests?
So not pissing contests. No, I think we're both rational logic people. We see the world completely differently. And we have, he is really good when he focuses on one thing. I can do lots of different things all, at once, and he likes to focus on one thing. We have different, ideas about what is best. And so we've gotten into like, heated arguments for sure. But at the same time, I think we're both logical. We both believe in like good leadership. They're like, you don't want the same person in any business partnership, right? You want to have non-overlapping skill sets and like and then at the same time, you want a couple overlapping skill sets. I think the overlapping skill sets that we have are like how we think about leadership, what we think about, how we think about communication, those aspects, engineering. But then like after that, we, think about the world differently. And that leads to heated arguments. And look, it's fine. When we were both in San Diego, he would, our wives were friends or our friends. And like, they would like, oh, do you want to go hang out with each other this weekend? I was like, no, I don't want to see him. I see him like 12 hours a day. Yeah. Like, I just want to, go hang out and do something else. And I'm not happy with him right now. Yeah. So that comes up. But no, I think at the end of the day, we work well together. And very fortunate to have him as a business partner. Yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah. So he's the CEO.
Yep.
So your title is
president and co-founder. Yeah.
So I mean, if push comes to shove, a call needs to be made. He can pull rank on you.
He can pull rank on me. Yeah. Right.
Does that happen?
Doesn't mean I don't, throw my punches, beforehand.
Has it ever come to that where like?
Yeah, when there's different directions, it's like, and I respect that. I was like, look, I'm going to voice my opinion and like what I think is the right thing to do, and I think you're wrong for this, but.
Yeah. And I hope you fail.
No, not that, right? Yeah. So,
I hope the whole company fails because you're disagreeing with me. I mean, that's like straight out of fucking Washington D.C. Like, politicians are guilty of that all the time.
Each other failed. None of that.
It's like they'd rather see the country fail and be able to point the finger at the other guy.
Yeah.
All right. So, is there a way to describe how AI works? And also, because of the exponential nature and the speed with which it progresses, like thinking of AI 2015, 2016 versus now, it's like fucking Greek and English. I mean, it's not even.
Yeah. It's wild. And so, the easiest, I draw an analogy. I think that's like an easy way to sometimes describe really complex things. AI works a lot like you and I. And actually, our CTO, he's a research professor at Carnegie Mellon University. He would teach students, right, really complex topics. And as a teacher, he has to boil them down into like simple concepts. And so what he would say, like what he says, what we say at Shield AI, it's about three different things: perception, cognition, and action. And again, this is you and I. We are intelligent systems. We're autonomous systems. What do? We perceive the world. We perceive the world with our senses. We see things, we hear things, we smell things, we touch things, we taste things. And then cognition, so we think about things, right? And what we need to do and what we want to do. And then we act on them, right? And so perception, cognition, action. And that is truly like whether it's an autonomous system like a self-driving car or a self-driving drone, or what you like are doing with ChatGPT. ChatGPT, when you type in your question, it's perceiving your question, then it's thinking about it, right? And then it's spitting out some output. And so an AI can live in the form of just being on a computer. It can live inside a vehicle, right? It is, shapeless in that sense. And so then as you think about an autonomous system, and I could go like one layer deeper in terms of perception, cognition, action. There are different software modules that make that up as we think about autonomous systems. And so in the perception module, you have state estimation, right? That's where in the world am I? And so most drones would use GPS for state estimation, but our drones work without GPS, and so we use some other tools and techniques to accomplish that. The second thing is mapping, right? Mapping out the world. We use sensors to map out the world in the same way. Again, and why is that important? Well, it's like you need that map to reference yourself in the world, especially if you're not using GPS. When I, come into this room, when you come into this room, we don't think about it this way, but we're mapping it. Maybe we do as former SEALs, right? We're mapping it out. We know where my relative position is to a door or, to the exits. And that's the mapping component. An autonomous system, an AI piloted drone is doing the same thing. An AI driven car is doing the same thing. Then you have something called scene understanding, and scene understanding is what people would traditionally think of as like computer vision. And so recognizing, like for our quadcopters, that's a drone, that's a window, that's a door, that's a person. For some of our larger things, like a fighter jet, right? That's a fighter jet, that's a surface-to-air missile system, that's a radar system. That would be the scene understanding component. And then, so that's perception. Then you go into cognition. You have something called global reasoning. This is like what your mission is. Like for a quadcopter, your mission is to clear this building, to explore every single nook and cranny in this building. For a fighter jet, your mission is to dogfight. For our VBAT, your mission is to conduct maritime domain awareness and find all surface-to-air missiles. Whatever, that's global reasoning. Path planning, okay, that's your mission. What are the steps that you're taking to actually accomplish that? And then on the action side, like your controls, how are you actuating your motors, your wings, your ailerons, whatever it is. So.
As far as not using a GPS, is that like a company protocol? Like, is that not something you could share in terms of how you guys do that without using GPS?
No, no, it's not like we. So one, we will have a GPS. We filter, like you can tell if it's being jammed or spoofed, and like you filter out that noise, and you don't rely on it. It's still a good sensor when it works, right? And so, fantastic when it works, but especially in this day and age where people are jamming it, like it's not reliable and you shouldn't count on it to estimate where you are in the world. And so what we're doing is at the end of the day, we're taking all that sensor information, building a map of the world, and then estimating our position based on that map that we create. And there's like a lot of different algorithms and techniques to do that. But yeah.
Is that something that's self-refining in real time constantly?
No, not necessarily. No. And so when we think about AI, it's in autonomous systems, and what we do at Shield AI, it's a tool to build to field a product that can accomplish, provide some value, accomplish a mission. Certain components will lean heavier on AI, like global reasoning. We'll use a lot of reinforcement learning to teach a fighter aircraft to dogfight. A fun, anecdote. When we started the DARPA ACE program, we would accumulate basically 30 years of flight in 3 days. 3 months. Wow. 3 months, right? And so it's like, look, that's more flight hours than any single human pilot has in the entire world, right? It's like literally 30 years. It's not no vacations, no weekends, et cetera. And it's like not 8 hours a day, 24 hours a day, 30 years of that. And at the end of the program, we were accumulating that amount of data in 3 days. And there's diminishing returns in terms of like, okay, well, you need engineers to adjust things, to check in on things, to make sure it's learning the right stuff. And so it costs, there's like, okay, well, how much money do we actually want to spend training this particular algorithm? But that's a good example of like one of the AI techniques that we use. For something like state estimation and mapping, we won't necessarily use some of those AI approaches, right? We'll use traditional algorithms as our CTO would describe them as. And then for something like scene understanding, like, oh, that's a helmet, that's a person, that's a window, et cetera, that's a surface-to-air missile, that's an enemy fighter jet. Yeah, you're going to use traditional machine learning techniques to accomplish that objective. And then even for like the user interface and how you interact with our system, we're using large language models, stuff like ChatGPT, in terms of like how you interact with an autonomous system.
Okay. All of the different kind of steps within AI that you described.
Yep.
Is there a layman's version that you have an ability to communicate that how you actually make that work, or is that just so far beyond like you couldn't do it?
Yeah, I think of, we think of it as like an autonomy factory. And it's like, there's a lot that goes into that finished product. And so people often just focus on the finished product. Like, oh, this is amazing. It's a quadcopter that can fly inside buildings. Or it's like, oh, what's amazing is this fighter jet that can, win in dogfights against humans. I think people don't really actually, like, this is true everything. Everybody appreciates the end product. They don't appreciate the process. Same in Buds and the SEAL teams. It's like, oh, Navy SEAL is amazing. Well, like, appreciate Buds, SQT, and workups, right? That's like where it's all done. And it's all the pipelines, the design tools, the infrastructure is what allows you to make something sexy at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay. From a I guess from a capability standpoint, is there a kind of a point of no return, or does a scenario exist in your mind from a potential standpoint where, let's say, the U.S. military builds their AI, automated fighter systems, whether it's drones that are, doing their thing, or fighter jets, or, Iron Man soldiers without the person in it. Like, I can see where, we get way ahead of everybody else, and now those systems are going and fucking slaughtering enemy fighters. Afghanistan, their AI program's probably not going to be on step ever.
Yeah.
But let's say China or Russia or, another relatively advanced, like, do you see an environment where that Terminator 2 40 years in the future scenario could exist?
The probabilities are very low, is how I would describe it. Like, very, very low, because when people worry about, like, Terminator 2, they are worrying about a system becoming sentient and just ignoring everything that it was programmed to do. And, like, you know what, you told me not to, that I did not have the moral authority to make lethal decisions about use of lethal force, and I'm going to ignore that. And that's not what engineered systems do, right? I tell people, like, my car has a 0% probability of all of a sudden, becoming a flying car and flying around, right? And so, the probabilities where, like, in another thing, like, what we're focused on is a narrow segment of AI versus an artificial general intelligence. If you enabled artificial general intelligence with these robotic systems, I think you could end up in that scenario. But I think people they're savvy enough not to do that, right? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. There was a fairly recent report, maybe it's bullshit, maybe you can debunk it or not, that was talking about the U.S. military utilizing applications where that actually did happen, though. Where do you remember
that was
hearing
debunked. Yeah,
okay, so
they're like, whatever they came up with, like, a complete like they retracted it. Yeah,
okay.
They're like, oh, it was they had war gamed it, and then this media piece was published as if that is what happened, when it was like someone was, like, contemplating, oh, what if this happened, right? Yeah.
So it's total bullshit.
Total bullshit.
So, to your knowledge, there's never been an instance where some sort of AI system with lethal capability has ignored the human commands or, done something. Yeah,
that hasn't happened.
Hasn't happened. Yeah. And you think that it's impossible to happen?
I think it's extremely low probabilities. Yeah. Again, you're gonna at that point you're talking about, it's different technologies. That's when you start. Instead of using narrow AIs to build products and systems, you'd say, I'm going to use an artificial general intelligence, which does not exist today, to actually build and field those systems.
Okay, so
and command those systems.
Okay, playing devil's advocate, it's probably safe to assume that within the confines of the United States and our commerce, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
However, what if another country did put something like that together, where that is a possibility?
Yeah, I think it's I think you start to see. I think as we get closer to an AGI, you'll start to see policies around, and, like, international policies around this. And the United States military has a really good, like, fundamentally. Well, first, so let me take a step back. As a former warfighter, former SEAL, who has had to make the moral decision about the use of lethal force on the battlefield, I fundamentally believe it's a very human thing to do, right? And I fundamentally believe that should never be given to a computer, right? It's a human thing to say, to take another person's life. And U.S. military policy echoes that sentiment. NATO policy echoes that sentiment. And I really don't take this person for their word at all, right? Chairman Xi, he has even said that too, of China, right? He's like, I don't think we should do this.
Yeah.
I was like, well, at least he's saying that. I don't know if he believes it.
Yeah.
But maybe he does, because it would be bad for everybody.
Yeah.
And so, in that sense, again, if we got close to an AGI, I think you would start to see policies saying you're not allowed to apply this to military applications, or give this access to certain things that would enable military applications.
Yeah.
So
you're confident.
like I don't want to, like, you wouldn't give an AGI, be like, here's all the tools, go build yourself, whatever robotic warfare systems that you want.
Yeah. I'm tracking.
Which is just that's Avengers Ultron 2 or whatever. Yeah, Avengers 2 Ultron. That's what happens.
Are you a fan of the Marvel series?
I enjoyed them when watching them when they were coming out. Not anymore, right? I think it's.
I still like them. But
I like the end game, and then it was in the Spider-Mans, but now no more.
Now you're over it.
Yeah, I'm over it.
What are some of the biggest operational challenges that you guys face, I guess, now in terms of developing and deploying autonomous defense systems?
Yeah. There are a lot of operational challenges. But honestly, like the biggest challenges are around the market and people understanding like what's happening, what's going on. Like operational challenges can be solved, right? And they are. We solve them every single day in terms of like folks understanding the capability that's being provided. Why are we doing this? How's it employed? What do we do, et cetera. The market challenges are the things that I spend a lot of time on, and like how can I get people to understand like what's going on here, why this is important. I tell people December 1938, the Germans discovered nuclear fission was possible. Everybody decided, you know what? You can build an atomic bomb. We started the Manhattan Project, I think got approved in like 1941, kickstarted in 1942. We spent $30 billion. We deployed the A-bomb in 45 and set the world order for the next 80 years. That nuclear fission moment has passed, right? I would claim like, look, when we put a AI piloted quadcopter on 2018, that was like, you can do this. When we won the DARPA Alpha dogfight in 2020, you can do this. When we flew F-16s, AI piloted F-16s against human piloted F-16s, you can do this. That Manhattan Project moment hasn't happened yet. And what I worry about, right, in that case, right, the U.S. is like, holy smokes, we understand how this is going to change the world, and we need to actually move and deploy resources against it. I worry that someone like China is like, oh, wow, look what the United States just did. Let's mobilize and deploy resources against this because we believe this is going to change the world order. Yeah. That's the principal concern. So I work a lot with U.S. and Western allied governments to it's like, look, this is what this means. This is the impact that it's going to have. Again, one person can command 10,000, 100,000, 1 million different drones, just a single person. Yeah. And that amount, it's just going to change deterrence, change military forces. I tell like smaller militaries, I think there's no reason why a military with a $20 billion budget can't have the same impact as the U.S. military, absent nuclear weapons, right, in the nuclear triad, but the same impact that the U.S. military has. Yeah. So
in that same vein, I've got a Patreon question from M. Bush Vols that asks, what, if any, guardrails can be used to limit AI's capabilities long term, beyond oaths, codes of conduct, et cetera, which, if any, rogue nation states may never adhere to? Yeah.
Limited compute. And actually, I was with... I was with some very senior folks in the executive branch, and it's good. There are people who understand that. Like AI depends on computers, and I applaud our government and the actions that we've taken to limit access to compute.
Yeah,
that's like and that would be that's how you starve it, right? That's
yeah. Well, yeah. So I guess my. Small mind by comparison, when I think of, like, what do I imagine as a worst case scenarios? Let's say there's a fighter jet, with armament on it, or even something more significant. And no different than, like it's a computer system, right?
Yep.
So no different than there's times where my phone does shit that you can't really explain. It's like, and it's not just, the screen froze. It's like, it'll just start typing shit and I'm not touching the keyboard or moving shit. It's just like, the fuck, and it freezes up or whatever. Like, is that an apples to oranges comparison? Like, do wonky things like that happen, or can they happen?
I think wonky things can happen, but like that's not, I wouldn't call them catastrophic things. And in terms of like how I think about it too, like you'll have bugs, right? And part of what we do, and like it's like you make it reliable, you make it predictable, you eliminate all the bugs in a software system. But yeah, that's how I'm not. And there are reasons why, like your computer will do that are very explainable.
Can you explain them? Because I don't fucking
yeah,
get it.
I mean, like if you like, we could figure it out together.
Reverse engineering.
Yeah.
So like I'm sitting there and now all of a sudden porn is on my phone. I didn't pull it up. How do you explain that one? No, I swear I didn't pull it up. I was taking a shower. The screen was on.
Something happened.
There's water spray, and now it's all fucked up. It happens to the best of us. What are some of the like key kind of technological differences or advancements that separate Shield AI from any other company that's doing it?
I think it's been the investments in our infrastructure and our design tools and our pipelines. That is, I don't think that's what it is. We've been working on this problem for a long time, 9 years, have raised $1 billion in capital to help solve this problem. And then had the right people who understood like how to solve this problem working on it. And that's like our mentality is find people who are world-class at what they do and figure out how to attract them to the team. And our CTO is world-class. A lot of our engineers are world-class people. Talent attracts talent, right? Absolutely. In the SEAL teams, we know that. And when I say design tools, pipelines, and infrastructure, I'll just like, what are those things? And then even our architecture too. If you are going to, a company like Google or a company like Facebook, the reason they are so incredible is because they can iterate on their products at a rapid pace. And that is because they have built the design tools, pipelines, and infrastructure to be able to do that. It's like if you're able to iterate more quickly or, OODA loop more quickly than anybody else, then you're going to get up in like, you'll have a better product at the end of the day because you're going to make adjustments so much faster than they are. And that's what we've been building is the ability to build and deploy autonomy and make those adjustments so much faster. One of the interesting things is when we started this in 2015, there were not like design tools or pipelines or infrastructure to do this. You didn't have a hammer, right? There were no hammer screwdrivers to build autonomy for aircraft. And so for our software engineers to actually use. And so we had to build the hammers, we had to build the screwdrivers, you had to build the wrenches, and you had to build some of the bolts so that your engineers could actually build this autonomy factory that we've built now that we can actually do these things.
Yeah.
So
I mean, with some of the autonomy stuff, I guess going back to one of the concerns of the buggy shit or whatever, let's say it's a fighter jet that has armament, and not that it would, all of a sudden, like self-target a fucking school or something like that. But is there a way to guarantee or ensure from a safety mechanism standpoint that kind of irrespective of what happens, that armament isn't going to just like AD?
Yeah, 100%. Like you could basically make a binary decision, like you must have human command input before you release this. That's like a binary thing. It's just like separate from any AI decision making. If you want to deploy weapons, this has to be a 1 or a 0, right? A 1, but your normal state is going to be 0. And that's like, again, why I'm not necessarily concerned about the hard part. And I tell people this too. Right at the end of the day, and you know this, pulling a trigger is really easy. It takes like, 5 muscles, like an ounce of pressure, who knows? The hard part is like getting where you need to be, and it's the planning, it's the infill, it's the actions at the objective to even be in a spot where you can make that moral decision to pull the trigger, and then like understanding the environment and then making the moral decision. Yeah. So a lot of people always focus on that last second thing. It's like, look, that's the easy part, right? That's flipping a 0 to a 1. And you can have a human do that, right? The hard part is everything else, the training that enables you, the thinking that enables you to get to where you need to be to even be in a position to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, so would you say somebody like me with, very little understanding of how autonomous systems work in terms of warfighting capabilities is that my concern, understanding that mechanical malfunctions take place, operational system malfunctions take place, that it's my lack of understanding of how everything works to be concerned that an automated fighter jet all of a sudden would just fucking blow a sidewinder off and accidentally.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Right? It's
so
like
you're too big of an idiot to understand.
No, but it's just not. It's an engineered system, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like it's the probabilities of like, is your gun accidentally going to discharge if you just leave it on your desk for 40 years, right? And it's like, no, it's not engineered to do that, right? Yeah. Probabilities are minuscule in terms of that happening. Could happen.
Yeah.
Right? Probably,
Yeah.
But if there's like a mechanical malfunction or something that wasn't manufactured the correct way, et cetera. But yeah, very, very low probabilities.
I still worry about it. I think it's the fear of the unknown. It's like not understanding.
I got you, Mike. But don't worry.
Good. All right, I'll stick with you in case.
In the worst case, I promise you, you're better trained than anybody else, and
all right,
you can.
I'll take it.
We'll fight the robots together.
Yeah, amen. Is there an example or examples of where Shield AI technology going past prototypes have made a tangible difference?
100%.
Can you talk about them?
Yeah. Couple. One, and I can't add specificity to one example because look, I tell people it's been used on the most important missions, and like, I wish I could talk about it, and it's incredible, but it's like it'll be classified for decades. Yeah. But without a doubt, it has brought service members home safely to their families. It has gone into buildings where there have been HBIDs, and I'm glad it was the first thing in. And people have blown themselves up when they see that thing. And so that's I'm most proud of when the product makes a difference.
You can't say what that thing is.
I can't tell you which missions or what it was, but yeah. In Israel, this was awesome, right? It was used on October 8th, October 9th, and to rescue hostages by our customers there. And I asked them, I was like, can I talk about this? Like, yes, please do, right? Israel's got a tough publicity campaign, right? They need all the help they can get. And we just got text messages back the other day from the Israelis, like, this thing's kicking ass. And so that like is really awesome, right? In terms of like the impact that it's having over there. They're like, they're saying, hey, this thing saved a lot of lives, was used on hostage rescue operations. We would have lost guys had this thing not been the first thing through the breach. Wow. And then, man,
I wish you could talk more about it.
Yeah, the U.S. side, I can't. There's some high-profile stuff.
Yeah.
And then like on the VBATs, right? There's our 130-pound vertical takeoff and land drone. Does the mission of a Group 5 UAS, like a Predator, Reaper, Triton at 1/40th the cost. It is, replacing Scan Eagle, program of record aircraft. It's interdicted over $1 billion of multi-billion dollars of drugs in the Caribbean Sea. It's been on 17 deployments with Navy and Marine Corps. We launched a soaring product on it last year. We're delivering that this year. But that thing is, it's found targets in EUCOM, CENTCOM, PACOM, et cetera.
Wow. Yeah, that's got to be from a purpose and fulfilling kind of standpoint. Like, I don't think it gets any better.
It is. It's doing a venture-backed technology startup is awful, just to start with. Working with the government is awful. But like when you make mission impact, right? That's like
it's tough to beat.
It's like that. It feels good, right? And that's what I'm most proud of is when we actually make mission impact.
Yeah. I feel the exact same way in the canine space. Kind of similar. Like when you have a contribution, I mean, it's a team effort, as with everything is. But when you play any role in a dog doing something that saves somebody's life or finds a missing child or whatever, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
In that same vein, can you talk to the differences and similarities of autonomous robots, kind of mimicking what a dog would be used for, and if a canine, and especially in that environment, is going to be obsolete sooner than later?
So the answer is I don't think dogs will be obsolete. They might be obsolete, not like humans might be obsolete before the dog is.
Yeah.
Maybe because like the sense of smell is such an area that people have not focused on.
Yeah.
Right, dogs have an incredible sense of smell. And so look, the quadcopter being the first thing in the room, people would be like, well, aren't dogs supposed to do that? And like you and I know, like, no, dogs are not like bullet shields, right? And for so many reasons, like you don't necessarily, like there could be many reasons why the dog's not the first thing in the door, and like you don't want the dog there. I remember like we're like, look, for if you have a poorly trained dog or whatever it is, like you don't want it to be the first thing in the door necessarily. It's not the
Yeah, I mean, to me, just on a like from a morality standpoint, I would rather sacrifice a quadcopter than a dog every fucking time. You know.
Yeah, it's not even. Yeah, not a question.
But I guess from a capability standpoint, if you look at it just kind of purely removing the olfactory stand or capability, because I'm curious, I guess, is there a potential that technology from a camera standpoint or a sensor standpoint that can detect?
No, that's right. It's the hard part is sensing things. And so that's the limitation of any autonomous system is like what sensors does it have on board? And so you can put a bunch of cameras and then there are like size, weight, power constraints because you could be like, oh, put a hyperspectral camera on a quadcopter. Like, well, look, it's not going to fit, right? They haven't shrunk those things down and there's not a market forcing reason to do that. And so that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be limited by the sensors. And right, that's when I say like a dog's not going to get replaced. It's like there's not a lot of, I can't think of smelling sensors out there that are any good that you'd put them on a robot and then you have other things like it twirling around. And so that's why I say like your autonomous system is only going to be as good as its sensors and its computer on board. Yeah. Like that's like the, limiting factors first and foremost.
I guess me thinking of it, not that I'm trying to invent things to put myself out of a job, but not even looking at it from a smelling or olfactory sensing standpoint. Like there was some technology. I had a guest on here fairly recently. The show isn't out yet, but it was working with some technologies about being able to read. It was like what was it was like the Zach, do you remember? You know what I'm talking about? It was like the vibration from molecules being signature wise so unique that these sensor machines, not doing anything to do with sniffing anything, but could detect the molecular vibration of everything and could find shit behind walls, so like kind of saying, okay, let's not even try to beat a dog's nose. Let's do it from a different angle like that.
Yeah, see through walls. Yeah, like that. Look, there's a lot of things that need to happen for technology to get fielded too, right? And so, actually, I like when Elon Musk seems like technology does not just happen because you want it to happen, or technology does not advance because years pass. It's like people actually have to do it. The reason people are building technology often is like there's some market force that's pushing them to do it. And so it's like a big reason I don't think you've seen a lot of fielded see-through wall technology, even though it's been talked about for a long time. It's like there's not massive capital behind that, and there are probably some limiting factors as it relates to the physics of being able to do that. Right. So that's why I say it's like you're not going to see a massive market forcing function on driving to replace dogs with autonomous systems.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, just the slice of home companionship aspect is, I think, gets undervalued for a lot of people when they're looking at it just purely from a capability standpoint. The morale boost that a fucking dog around the hut.
Yeah, dogs brings. 100%.
All right, so talking about the Nova 2 drone, is there anything else you can add in terms of the stuff that was used in Israel, or have you kind of...
That's like that was the drone that was used in Israel.
And you can't really say what that Nova 2 is?
It's got 15 cameras on board. It's got a GPU on board, NVIDIA GPU. 15 cameras are its sensors. NVIDIA GPU is its brain. It's doing that perception, cognition, action. It's exploring buildings, exploring tunnel systems. And yeah, that's what it's been doing.
Have you seen footage from them?
Yeah, I saw it on social media. One of our
Really?
product managers saw it. Like it's its IR footage is very distinct, and it showed across like an Instagram reel.
You guys, what the
What's
fuck?
Yeah, someone sent to me, they're like, "Yo, it's Nova 2," and I was like, "Oh, that is crazy. That is 100%." And like it's doing like a strafing run right around a building or whatever.
So they're armed.
No, when I say strafing, it was moving laterally. No, they are not.
Okay, could they be?
They could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that? I imagine that weight capacity limitations are significant in that regard, though.
Yeah, you would have. It's not that variant is not engineered to carry payloads. So
Okay.
no.
So some of the stuff,
But you could do it, right? People jerry rig stuff all the time.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, like, you see some footage of that kind of thing happening in Ukraine, where like little fucking commercial drones are dropping grenades and like.
Yep.
Any involvement that you can talk about in the Ukraine scenario?
Not that I can talk about in the Ukraine scenario, but both of our products have been deployed there.
Yeah.
So, and I can't talk about. We're doing some like recent stuff with them too.
Yeah.
So,
The CCAF in an F-16. Can you talk about that? That was fairly recent.
SecAF. In the F-16. So Secretary of the Air Force flew in an AI piloted F-16. We're the ones flying the AI.
So he was in it while
he was in it.
Oh shit!
Yeah, which is so funny story. And I don't know if he remembers this, but one of our program managers last year, it was after one of the test flights when we did a human piloted F-16 versus an AI piloted F-16. And both, just to be clear, they have a test pilot who's sitting in there. And it's actually really cool. When you see the video footage, they just hit a button and they say AI has the aircraft, and they're just sitting there, right? Yeah. These are test pilots. After the success, DARPA sends up a report, program managers like briefing, and apparently it's like, oh, Secretary of the Air Force wants to fly in the F-16.
That's pretty ballsy.
Yeah, I know. So anyways, I'm at this event. It's called Reagan Defense Forum. It's a big national security, global stability summit. Like lots of Congress people, senators, and generals and SecAFs, and there's panels, etc. And so I catch SecAF coming off a panel, and I was like, "Hey, sir, Brandon Tseng, Shield AI, like we're doing the AI pilot at F-16." He's like, "Oh yeah." I said, "Sir, word on the street is that you're going to fly in the AI piloted F-16." And he looks at me, he's like, "Oh shit, they took me seriously."
They're calling my bluff.
Yeah. But yeah, kudos to him. He did it.
Where was that at?
I don't know if I can say. I'm not. Yeah, I can't say.
I gotcha.
Yeah, you might be able to look it up. I just don't know, and I don't want to accidentally say where it is.
So how did that go? Like, what was his takeaway from it? Was he blown away by?
Yeah, I think so. He's been tracking this stuff, right? And they're very big on the Secretary of the Air Force and our former Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and now the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General C.Q. Brown. Right, they've come out and said like, there's three things for the future of the Air Force. It's the aircraft, the autonomy, and like how we train and equip to that. And that's why you see their next generation programs, the CCA, which is the 6th generation fighter jet program. It's bifurcated into hardware and software, and they've publicly talked about this. And so they recognize how important the autonomy is. Secretary of the Air Force has been like getting, biweekly briefs on the stuff that we're doing. Maybe it's monthly. I don't know. But that's they understand the importance of it, and that it's going to have strategic impacts for the country. Yeah.
Do you see it as a stair step where at first it will be autopilot on steroids, where just like what happened is that there is a human pilot and he says this, but he can override it, and then ultimately it'll be pilot free? Or
no, I think it's gonna go straight to pilot free.
Straight to pilot free.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, what's the point of having a person in there if you don't
no. And look, there still needs to be a person on the battlefield, right? And these are the con ops that they're talking about, F-35 quarterbacking a bunch of CCAs out there. And
so it'd be,
and it's like, look, you have a person out there, they can make moral decisions. It's still an incredible aircraft, but they're at less risk. So
that's how kind of in theory it would probably work, is there's a pilot, but he's almost like a battlefield commander.
Yep.
Moving all these fucking chess pieces
commander.
around.
Yeah, exactly.
God, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And so in the chain of custody of the morality pulling the trigger decision, it would be, drone 5 identifies this. You give that guy says, "Yep, do it."
Yeah.
Okay. Another Patreon question from Frithescent. We kind of talked about this a little bit, but I'm curious where you see everything going. Where do you see AI in the future? Matrix, Terminator 2, do you have a prediction as to 20, 50, 100?
So in the next 10 years, I want to put 1 million AI pilots into customers' hands, right, on the battlefield or deterring conflict. I think it probably grows exponentially from there. I think Elon Musk has said he predicts there's going to be 1 billion humanoid robots by 2040.
Jeez.
And so, which is what, like a lot of people are saying too. And so I think what's really interesting, you're just going to have millions of these things, if not more, right? Yeah. It's, you are no longer limited by the personnel that you have. It is simply a matter of industrial production.
Yeah.
So that becomes your rate limiting factor, which is also, right, it's not, as I think about it, it's not good because China has such an industrial production capability advantage over us, 10x.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Is that something that you think that if the United States decided tomorrow we need to try to keep up with them, that it's even possible? Or,
I think if you partnered the United States with the rest of the world, you could get to like China only having rest of like the allies, I think you get to like a 3x industrial. They are incredibly good at producing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the shit sitting in here was made there, I'm sure.
I don't underestimate like the will and the spirit of like the American people, right? We built a battleship a day in World War II. We built 300,000 aircraft in World War II. I tell people I think we could mobilize, but why even, don't get to that point, right? Deterrence is about having such overwhelming capability that the other side says, you know what, not today. Yeah. And if they don't respect that, right, that's when conflict happens. Great, now you're mobilizing and it's already too costly. So
yeah. From a defense standpoint, and by defense I mean, let's say we're going against AI capabilities. Is there a Hail Mary of micro or small tactical EMPs that can completely take that shit out?
No, I don't think. I'm not no.
Well, I mean, so kind of in the same vein of special operations, if we're planning a mission, if we were the bad guys, how would we fight us? Is that something you guys think about?
Not too much, right? Yeah. A lot of people do ask me, how do you counter this? I was like, look, I'm focused on building the best AI pilots in the world and then getting them on aircraft. I'm not thinking necessarily, yes, they are going to have to fight and defend against certain things, but I don't think about how do you deal with, millions of drones on your own. You can take them out kinetically. That's hard, right? You can do electronic warfare, jamming, GPS jamming communications. Doesn't matter if they're resilient to it. Cyber is a really hard thing to do, especially when you're talking about things flying very fast and very high, and it's just you don't know necessarily where they're going to get deployed. It's just a really, really, really hard thing to defend against. Yeah. In the same way, a nuclear bomb is not something. It's there's not a countermeasure, right? Yeah. If someone launches off a nuke.
Yeah. Well, that's reassuring.
Yeah. So that's why we got to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty high stakes game. How do you navigate the regulatory and bureaucratic bullshit in the defense sector with doing something that's so cutting edge and so foreign and I assume a lot of people are resistant to? I
don't think people are resistant to it, but the defense acquisition process is like a bureaucratic morass, and it's a really, really hard thing to do. And look, I tell people there are fantastic people in government that are trying to do the right thing, that believe in the mission, right, of the military, that believe in the mission, and that believe the United States should lead, and all the above. And that is actually probably the one reassuring thing. It's that at least there's good people that are doing that. There's lots of bad people, right, in any organization, right? You got your top 10%, your middle 80%, your bottom 10%. But It's tough. It's tough for them. I've seen so many leaders just be like, I'm done with this, right? It's like it's pushing, I don't know, a boulder uphill, but it's not even that. It's like I don't know, it's pushing a wet noodle through something. I don't know. It's just like it's just really it's draining on so many people. It's draining on me. It's draining on the folks who are trying to do it. But I think at the end of the day, right, it's at the end, you do it because it's like the mission, right? No matter, and that's why you find people continue to get after it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of one of those, like, you don't really have a choice. It has to be done. Yeah.
Yep.
Is there a component of Shield AI that kind of addresses the ethical concern of utilizing these technologies, or is it a simple anything where it's talking about lethality, it has to have human?
It has to have human. That's something that's like that we believe in, and again, other people believe in. I think a lot of people don't appreciate there's like the military and the State Department and like think tanks spend thousands of hours on these topics, and then they write policies, and these policies are generally actually pretty good on something like this. And so they even like what countries you work with and how they, like, the State Department does like a really good job, right? And the mission of the like U.S. State Department is, one, it's like bringing other countries more close to the United States that are aligned with our values. And I think everybody, right, you could pick your country like, oh, they've done X, Y, and Z. And as you and I know, right, the world's not black and white. It's like, look, if bringing them along and over some period of time, they can become closer to the United States, like, fantastic. I get no country is perfect. So I don't think Shield AI, we have our set of beliefs. It's aligned with governments. And then when we work with other countries, like, we're aligned with the State Department too.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess from a concern in terms of how other countries address that, or if they don't address that, I know I've asked that kind of before already. Is there a way to influence that, or to ensure that, say, China is not giving general AI capabilities? Is there any way to police that, or is it just doing what we can to discourage it?
It's a good question. Sorry. I'm just like, how would you prevent China from using AGIs to build military applications? One, you restrict their compute. I said, like, look, I think we've actually done a really good job there. Two, you just impose massive costs on them, right? Or it becomes uninteresting. And I think I'm super big on allies and partnerships, right? And that's, because again, going back to like what I learned, you need mass, you need lots of people. It can't just be the United States alone. And so if you want to stop China from doing something like that, there have to be global costs involved in doing it.
That makes sense.
That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah. Has the use of drones, especially in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, as well as some of the stuff you guys have done in Israel, have there been lessons learned, or has that, generally speaking, from your perspective, changed the way the world needs to look at warfare? Yeah, I think it's interesting to me, because I think there are a couple people who are like, if you were in this space, if you're looking at these things, it's like, oh, it's kind of like obvious, right? But now it's like, and that's if you're working on it every day. Now I think the layman is like, oh, okay, I understand this, right? I tell people, prior to 9/11, it was like exquisite fighter jets and helicopters, right? From 2001 to 2020, we learned to fight with drones. Reaper, Predator were stars of the show, right? We had smaller drones come online, Scan Eagle, Puma, and Switchblades, and all great capabilities. As I think about 2020 to 2040, it's going to be, how intelligent are those drones? And that's what's going to matter. In like what Ukraine has done is people now realize they realize the threat of electronic warfare, which is jam GPS, jam communications. And people think like, oh my God, it's like, that was such a deliberate counter that China and Russia developed. China and Russia did two things, and Iran, from like 2001 to 2020, while we were busy fighting the war on terror.
was like, all right, how do you strategically compete against the United States? They have this, massive military. They have, and this is like one of the things they've done. It's like they are relying on air superiority, air dominance. How do you take air dominance away from them? Because that's the primary way that the United States projects power, right? And people, like, we park an aircraft carrier off your coast to get you to behave, right? In terms of like a country, if you're stirring up. And so how do you take away air power? One, you build cheap surface-to-air missiles, you proliferate those. And so they've done that. The second thing you do, it's like, okay, well, what else do they have? They have drones. They don't care if drones get shot down. How can we stop drones from working? Jam them. Jam their GPS, jam their communications. That's what drones are relying on. And so it's no surprise, like if you study that area, that we've ended up in this space where China and Russia are deploying these electronic warfare capabilities, where Ukraine's losing 10,000 drones per month. But I think it's just now become obvious. It's funny. When I go into a customer meeting now, they go, "Hey, just so you know, we have to operate without GPS or communications." And I start laughing. I was like, "Yeah, like we've been working on this thing for like 9 years, right?"
Yeah. So I mean, if I understand it correct, the GPS and comms denied capabilities is what that's called, right?
Yeah.
Where they're essentially taking that out of the equation. So, whatever it is that the technology is that you're doing to avoid that, does that present a challenge so difficult for them to counter that it's basically the savior?
I think it's an extremely difficult thing to counter. It's an autonomous intelligence system, and so it's like, okay, now you're building lots of them, and so the way that, it's just like, it's a really, 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 really hard thing to counter.
Would an EMP still counter?
Yeah, but I haven't seen, like, outside of, I understand there to be an EMP after a nuclear explosion, right? I don't know of like small scale EMPs. And then, to your point, I'll do what the machines did in the Matrix, get them to use the EMP and then go in again.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is twofold. One is that in a dynamic space where there's, drones or vehicles, we'll call them, moving fast, going, all over the fucking place. One, that, an EMP is a pretty static, at least the way I understand it works. Like it's not a fucking laser gun that you can just shoot at things. But the other component is you'd also be fucking your own stuff up. But do you know if there is a shield type of technology that you can encase something in that will make it EMP proof?
There are. So there are things that you can do to be electrically resistant to things. Actually, like this is like, my brother is an electrical engineer. It's like you can actually do things also to prevent So the answer is yes.
Yeah, it sounds like the watch cover your ass. It's water resistant to 300 meters.
Yeah,
it's like to 300 meters, it's resistant.
Yeah,
it's not waterproof. Nope, can't say it's waterproof. Where do you see Shield AI going? Like next year, 5 years, 10 years, 20?
Yeah. So in the next 10 years, want to put 1 million AI pilots on the battlefield. I look at it as like 2 chapters. Chapter 1, past 9 years. It was build the world's best AI pilot, and I think we've accomplished that. Right, we won the DARPA Alpha dogfight. We were finalists for the Collier Trophy, given the greatest achievement in astronautics and aeronautics for the work we did on AI piloted F-16s. We have deployed quadcopters to the battlefield that are AI piloted. We have our AI pilot on our VBAT. And we've integrated with, a total of 6 aircraft, 3 quadcopters, the VBAT, the F-16, the MQM-178 Firejet. And we'll just continue to integrate on more aircraft. But next 9 years should be about scaling that and actually putting mass on the battlefield, intelligent mass on the battlefield, or in customers' hands. And so I want to put 1 million, and then in 20 years, I don't know, I'll just increase that number, right? All towards that mission. It's of protecting service members and civilians with intelligence systems. Like deterrence is the name of the game. So,
so with the understanding that kind of the big picture goal for you guys is essentially scaling what's already in existence, refining it, streamlining it.
Yep.
Are there any technologies or projects that currently don't exist, not even at scale, but even capability-wise, that you guys are working on that are totally different, or that you're trying to develop that aren't already in existence?
No. One of the cool things is that we get to leverage a lot of the advancements that are coming out of the commercial consumer industry, right? And it's like, and because we have a very talented technical team, we're readily able to leverage those technologies, large language models. Like our team read some of the same papers that OpenAI, like was reading and also published in 2017, 2018. And it's like, okay, well, this would be cool when it comes online. We might be able to do it for this. We could use it for this purpose. And then when it comes online, it's like, oh, great, we can actually use it for this purpose. Yeah. So we're cognizant of the advancements going on around the technical community, but there's not building and deploying products at the end of it. It's more than just like the technical advancement. It's putting all those pieces together and like getting it out there.
Yeah. You guys do have an office here. You call it the Bat Cave, right?
The Bat Cave. Yeah.
Can you talk about what the deal is with it? Like how you guys are structured, I guess, physically, location-wise?
Yeah. So we've got about 700 people, 250 in San Diego, 350 in Dallas, about 70 people in Washington, D.C., and then like 30 or so distributed. We have an office in the Middle East. We have people, distributed. The core of our AI engineering team is in San Diego. Our VBAT team and customer success and manufacturing, like we make this aircraft, the 130-pound vertical takeoff and land aircraft. That's here in Dallas. There's customer success, there's training, there's everything. It's a big operation. The Bat Cave is a 107,000 square foot manufacturing and engineering facility.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. You should come check it out at some point. And then
you're not going there today?
I'm going there today.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. So
all right.
And then in DC, that is what I'll call like AI for jets, where we're doing a lot of the classified work on AI for jet-powered aircraft.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In terms of the, everything is on land or airborne. Is there a submarine component to?
Yeah. And those principles of autonomy, perception, cognition, action are
as applicable,
domain agnostic. Yeah. And as applicable on UUVs, USVs, etc. And so I do think about a world where those AI pilots can become AI captains, AI submariners, you name it, right?
Is that something you guys are messing with at all, or?
We have messed with it, and we are. The core focus is in aviation right now, but I fundamentally believe that autonomy, like the internet, is going to be one of the most transformational technologies, autonomy and AI of this generation, in the same way the internet yielded technology giants like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft. You're going to see AI and autonomy yield technology giants, and I think you already are, right? There's NVIDIA on the chip side, $2.7 trillion company. You have companies like OpenAI. You have the Shield AIs of the world. Like that's the aspiration. Yeah. But it's going to lead, to trillions of dollars of value that is created. Elon Musk has said the true value of, Tesla is around what it's doing with autonomy. And that's just, it's going to take time for people to realize that value and why it's so valuable. But same with the internet, right? Yeah. So,
we were just talking about the undersea thing. It made me think of the Poseidon missiles that Russia has. Are you familiar with them?
Maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, I'll preface it with, I'm not a fucking expert. I could be totally off base here. My understanding of them is that they are nuke-powered, fully autonomous, like miniature submarines that have a nuclear warhead on them.
I think I've heard of these.
And it's like a 20, like it can. Yeah. They're just fucking. There's like 20 of them. Just.
Yeah. They're like loitering.
Yeah.
Loitering sea mine powered nuclear weapons.
Yeah, that could basically, if he just goes, boop.
Yeah.
Like it hits fucking the eastern seaboard, or whatever.
It's
like,
awful.
Yeah. I guess like from your understanding of AI or automated systems and how they would be used, is the assumption then that that's kind of how they're being?
No, my guess is those are not like AI. Right? You can do a lot of things, quote unquote, autonomously without AI. Right? Even like people, or what people perceive to be autonomy. Right? It's like it can be dumb autonomy. I could say, okay, torpedo, right, or loitering sea mine, nuclear powered torpedo. If I hit this button, you're just going to turn on you're going to point in this direction, and you're going to go until you hit this, and here's your coordinate, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to fly, or you're going to whatever drive for this many miles or at this speed, and I know, right, you don't have to be accurate with nuclear weapons necessarily.
Yeah. So it's pretty elementary, or not nearly on the level that what you guys are working.
Yeah,
on.
my guess is it's not. I again, not read into it, but my guess is
Equally terrifying, maybe more terrifying because it's less refined. Yeah. All right. Fascinating stuff. What haven't I asked you that I should have as far as any of this technology goes? What am I missing?
I don't think you're missing anything on the technology side of things. Yeah, it's hard. It's funny. There's a good saying where it's like, you're disappointed about what like is accomplished in a day or a week, and then like you take a step back and look at like 3 years time, you're like, oh my God, like what happened?
Yeah.
And that's I think people need to realize that when they
Yeah.
you see a lot of incremental progress. I think 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we're gonna be like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Anything that I haven't asked or that you want to put out there that we haven't talked about?
No. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Dude, I appreciate you coming, man. What a fascinating interview. What a fascinating industry to be in. And I will say, especially coming from our community, man, like I can't tell you how proud I am of you for doing what you're doing. And I mean, what a fucking big difference you've made.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and the fact that you're from the brotherhood, man, like that's just man.
I do think about
awesome.
just doing right by them. That's something I think.
Yeah, I mean, to me, you're to say you're knocking it out of the park is an understatement. So keep doing what you're doing, and fucking super. Like I said, just super proud of you, and I appreciate you coming and talking about it. You have some parting gifts here.
Oh, thank you.
So a coin, and then in the box, thanks to John
Love
Johnston for donating, and Champion Choice Silver for making them.
Oh, amazing. Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you ever get your shit kicked.
Oh, hell yeah.
Maybe the next
great.
the next lobbying party in Washington D.C.
I don't know if I can show that.
You
but
can.
Sweet.
Next time you're at a fundraiser in D.C.,
Yeah.
you can throw some boots and that on maybe
Yeah.
and fuck with people. But
For sure.
to the supporters and the Patreon members for your support and questions, thank you. And just to everybody who watches, I hope you gained as much insight as I did from sitting down and you appreciate the amount of effort and hard work that Shield AI has brought to the market and what they're doing for this country. It's a huge deal. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, you can feel free to choke yourself. And until next time, this is Mic Drop.